Good morning, boys and girls, and welcome to the Recruiter Podcast. And we have a young gentleman sitting across from me, Mr. Glenn Pasch. Good morning, Glenn.
Good morning.
Thanks for doing this, man.
Thanks.
I
Thanks
really
for calling me young.
That's right. Well, there is a price to pay for that.
I'm sure there is.
All right, so before we get into our live reads and so forth for friends of the program, let me ask you a question. The worst interview, most memorable, craziest, most stupid interviewee in your whole career, because, I mean, with your background, obviously you've hired multiple people. Mm-hmm. Craziest one that you can remember, and then, if it's applicable, maybe the worst interview you ever gave as a job seeker. So if you give that a few minutes of thought, and in the meantime, Mr. Ernie Kasprowitz.
Okay, so as we all know, this is not free.
That's right.
And though the guys here at our production company do a fantastic job for us, so all systems go AV.
All systems go AV.
Yeah, so we thank them
Still
very
looking
much.
for a discount.
Yeah, well, in time.
In time.
All right, so, you know, conferences. You hear about it all the time. And, you know, how do you know to pick the right one? The guys at Rockstar kind of say, are you frustrated, maybe a little bit tired, burned out from the noise surrounding so many auto conferences? And their take is, with their way about going about it is kind of unique in that, they make it free for attendance. So we're going to start there. They bring people to there. You don't have to pay to get the knowledge to learn. Mm-hmm. And so why are people like Grant Cardone, Gary Vee, Ask a Millionaire, and others investing their time in these events? A large part of it is the speakers, the people that share the information, the knowledge that you're able to take back from these conferences. They're truly delivering new information that helps their dealers rock their market. So,
right. I'll tell you, the one I was just at a couple of weeks ago, when was that, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, maybe.
Whatever it was, those speakers there were like freakishly good. And there's a bunch of different ways to handle these conferences. And Glenn, you guys and we'll talk about it, put on legitimately amazing conferences.
Thank you.
And it's a big space. There's a lot of people trying because there's some serious money to be made there. I don't know if that's number one, but the content is so important. The networking, which we talked about a little bit pre-podcast, man, that is so important. And there's only a couple ways to do it. You know, the way Ziegler does it, you know, where his sponsors are paying a bunch of money. They speak. Jim makes a few bucks.
Sure.
Times whatever. times a
Times
lot.
a few.
Right, times a few. It's always a packed house. The sponsor gets what they paid for. There's a lot of different ways to go about it, and Matt and the folks at Rockstar have decided to go free with it. And it's free is free.
Right. Just get there.
Yeah, just get there, and you're in.
The next one is in Nashville. It's July 15th. It's a Monday. It's a one-day event, so you get there Sunday night, hit it hard all day Monday, go back to the dealership. So go.
Yeah, you got to. Joe's going, and his wife. I don't think I'm going to go, but
you get too beat up.
Yeah, well, I got my radiation starts tomorrow too.
Okay.
So
good.
6 straight weeks of that'll be fun. I'll be in here like this.
Yeah.
Hey, Craig, wake up. All right, who else we got? So, rockstarinfo.com?
Yeah, it's rockstarinfo.com. You can go there, learn more about an upcoming unconference near you. And then we have the guys at Takobi. Yeah, their question is pretty simple, but it's also rather powerful. Wouldn't you love to capture interested buyers while they are looking at your ad and interact with them immediately? You can. By using Facebook lead generation ads plus using Takobi software, you are able to capture interested buyers while they're looking at your ad with text message and engage the customer throughout the car buying process. With Takobi, you are able to follow up by text, import other lead sources, and text blast up to 500 customers at a time, all within minutes. Visit Takobi.com to see how you can instantly message with your new leads. I know you've got more you want to say, but Glenn, I mean, it's interesting. The space of digital marketing is compacted, I'm going to say, just in the sense that there's so many people involved, but yet there's, and we'll talk about you and your generosity of spirit, I'm going to say, with not viewing others as so much negative competition, but more in competition is good. So, their space.
They put a ton of stuff out there for free.
Yeah. Well, and just with Takobi, though, I mean, it's fascinating to me how you're able to have, a Facebook ad, someone's looking at your ad, you're notified, and you can text message them while they're looking at your ad. I mean, that's first point of interest. So you could bring that customer, you form that relationship. I think that's just fascinating.
Right.
The technology, the fact that it does work, and their conversion is super high. So as a dealer, I'd be interested in that product.
Yeah. Well, we have some
Clients.
some clients that are clients of both companies, and it's like, so how's Takobi working out for you? Great.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, because generally you just, generally you get, oh, they're okay, this and that, but it's always like, great, like, okay.
Right.
And face it, it's always a risk when you have your own client to refer to somebody else because it could affect your relationship.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. You make the wrong recommendation to one of your clients, and it's like,
all right, no, it's been good.
we do Glenn recommends us to one of his dealers, and we put one in the toilet, because it happens. We're not perfect. We do 1,500 of these a year. It's like, one or two are going to screw up. And if it's his, it's like, oh man, it makes him look horrible.
Yeah, well, I know with us, we don't let that go, though.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's in the toilet, we bend over backwards.
Yeah, our guarantees are like pretty weird.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Painful for us, but so be it.
I tell dealers, if you don't like the color of my trainer's tie, you're not 100% satisfied, we'll redo it.
Yeah.
They go,
that's great.
And they laugh. I said, no, I'm serious. Like, if you don't like his tie, let me know. It's like, I don't think you get any stronger guarantee.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. And every once in a while on Facebook, you can see Jason Girdner's posts.
Not too often. No.
Every once in a while.
Yeah.
Like,
you got to really look for them.
Yeah, like every 2 minutes. Yeah. Good thing we hired all those people for him.
Yeah.
We got him, I don't know. What's he call them? Ninjas?
Phone? Yeah.
We must have got him 35 people.
Good.
Yeah. So
well, it's bursting.
Yeah.
That's
crazy.
Good. Good for them.
Yeah.
And then we have our mutually very good friend, Troy Spring and his company, Dealer World.
Yep.
And again, to what we talked about earlier, your generosity. Troy's an advertising agency, and he views himself as a performance agency. And really that's in part how he goes about doing his business, the capabilities of the business, and then pricing structure. So Troy kind of throws it out there, wouldn't you love to have more traffic? Well, of course, but with fewer vendors, right? And, in his thing, he's better ads with a full focus on leads, and more leads, chats, phone calls, and walk-ins. Everything that Dealer World does is result-oriented. From better radio and TV to better lead generating, digital, and social, Dealer World can do it all, and sometimes for half the fees you're currently paying. So visit mydealerworld.com, one of the fastest growing performance agencies, to see how they could basically just ask for an advertising audit and let them see if they can help you.
Yeah, and that audit is free, I think.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it has been. Yeah. I would imagine that still continues.
Yeah.
He'd said it to us before. Yeah. So
Troy's not really that cool. We're just saying that because we all know him, but he's not that cool. He's got a cool dog, and his wife's awesome.
That cool dog is, 6 months, and it's already...
Dog's gigantic.
I know,
it's already leaping up on a house.
Huge.
It's unreal.
Yeah.
I went to his house before he had that, and he had the two small ones, and now he has the big
Yeah, he's
Cujo.
got a guide dog.
He's got Cujo around his house now.
And at least that's a seemingly good-tempered dog, right? I mean, he's going to say it is.
I think they are. It's like anything else, how you treat them. But
yeah.
So
yeah,
do we forget anybody?
No. Last but not least is our good friend Stephen Warner and a fantastic product called Automotive HR. Automotive HR is a complete HR system for both large and small dealerships. It targets and tracks top automotive talent by visiting hundreds of job boards, including Indeed, ZipRecruiter, Glassdoor, Google for Jobs. Automotive HR is a professional branded career website and microsites that enhance the candidate experience as well as shares quality information about the dealership. Automotive HR allows managers to interview, schedule, and hire with complete documentation. The platform is EEO and OFCCP compliant, and it can be used to ensure complete onboarding and effective training process are followed.
Yeah, it's Automotive HR is one of the cool. If you take a look at it, is one of the coolest things to hit the recruiting industry maybe ever. It's not the biggest. It is literally the best. Everything they do is homegrown. It's all the Silicon Valley geeks or work for him, and the stuff he does. The new onboarding, which has been introduced, is so amazing. And we can talk a little about it on this podcast if it becomes appropriate. But it's, in our opinion, and the data suggests that most of the turnover that's happening in car dealerships is happening within hours after he or she starts.
Oh, sure.
It's so poor, broad stroke, not everybody.
Right.
But it is so poor, they either have a bad onboarding system or process, or the one they're using, or they're not using one
They're
at
not
all.
using one at all, probably.
Right. So, and this does electronic onboarding. It makes the process so. This is a DIY. When dealers go online and they say, AutoMax is great and blah blah blah, and where in the world did you find these freaking people? It was like, I've been running ads for 6 months, and it's like, the answer's pretty easy. We use Automotive HR.
Yeah, the
So
technology.
there's the secret sauce. It's like, But if you're interested in that, of course, you can call. You can get in touch with Stephen Warner from AutomotiveHR.com. You can call our office and ask for Ernie or Joe, and mention the Recruiter podcast to get a couple bucks off. So
Right. We can walk you through the platform. We can do a demo for you. It's phenomenal.
it's awesome.
Makes your life a lot easier inside the dealership, that's for sure.
You bet. So before we get back to our guest here, just one last thing. If you folks would help us out a little bit, we'd appreciate it a lot. I'd offer to send you cheap pens or our AutoMax Excellent hat with the spelled back wrong. The expensive wine that you see on the table, you're
That's not
getting,
going, no.
You're not getting that. But we sure would appreciate it if you'd share from our Facebook page, AutoMax Recruiting, not AutoMax Recruiting and Training, AutoMax Recruiting. As a matter of fact, I'm killing that other business page today. Yeah, we're getting some confusion on that.
Yeah, I would have thought.
Yeah, so I'm killing that today. And our YouTube channel, which has gained a lot of traction lately, which is AutoMax Recruiting. Just go into YouTube, search AutoMax Recruiting, bang, you'll see it. You'll know you're on the right page when you see a kid with a big screaming into this huge microphone. It's kind of a cute image, I think. I like it anyway. So if you guys would share that stuff out, we'd sure appreciate it. We're also on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher. Man, we're on all of them.
Yeah.
That bill every month is shocking. So, but at any rate, so you can listen to your whatever your favorite audio platform is for podcasts. You can just look up the Recruiter podcast and you'll see it there. So that's all I got. So, Mr. Pasch.
Yeah.
And it really is good
to see you
have
again.
you here. Let me ask you this.
Sure.
Before we get to that question I asked you, 'cause I hop around a little bit.
That's all right.
But Lawrenceville is, if you walk over that bridge from New Hope across the river, that's Lawrenceville, right?
No, Lawrenceville
What
is right next to Princeton.
What town am I thinking about? You know
Not
what I
New
mean?
Hope.
When you're
New
in
Hope.
New Hope, you walk
Oh.
over that bridge. You're walking over the
Into
Delaware, I guess.
Yeah, I passed through there.
Lambertville?
Yes.
Lambertville.
Okay.
All
right.
Lambertville's nice.
it's
That's beautiful.
beautiful.
A lot of really nice restaurants. And
I love it. Yeah, and there's a restaurant. That's what I was bringing up. There's a restaurant. Right. I think there's a train track there too. But right as you get off the bridge to the right, there's this fabulous restaurant that overlooks that's the Delaware River, right?
Yes.
That's where Washington crossed.
Yeah.
At the bow of the boat.
It's funny because my kids, they were studying history, and we were saying, we went there. They go, oh, in the pictures, it looks like it's really a big river, and it's really not.
No, man.
It's
no,
like, oh, we could just go right across.
Right. It's a pitching wedge. Well, for you.
Well, it
For me,
depends.
it's a 6 iron.
It's 6. But yeah, it's interesting, that whole area, Princeton and Trenton, and when you read about it in the history books, and then you go, well, no, this is actually where this happened,
it's
and
so cool.
this is what went on, and just walking through the Princeton University campus, and it's fun. And then there's Lawrenceville Prep, the private school there as well. Holy Lord, their campus,
Really?
it's
I
one
didn't
of the
know
top prep schools, I think, in the world too. People send their kids, it's boarding.
Right.
You cannot board, but a lot of people send their kids there, and it literally looks like a college campus.
Yeah.
Well, when I first came to New Jersey, I was still drinking. Good thing you guys didn't know me then. Wow. I wasn't so awesome.
I think we talked about that one time.
Yeah. Whoo, me. So at any rate, we were doing a Ford dealership. We did I was involved, partners in this turnaround company where we'd go into a dealership, people and processes, and we'd take 50% or whatever, increase the business. It was a big thing in the late 80s.
Right.
When we made a crap load of money. Then we'd leave and they'd go right down the tubes.
Right.
And we'd go on to the next one. So I was doing one. I fell in love with New Hope. And I was dating what ultimately became my ex-wife. Did I say that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Future ex-wife at the time. So for whatever reason, I thought it'd be a good idea to drive an hour drive to work every day. So Pete Mercantani, who used to own Town
Yeah. Okay.
before
Yes.
you started
Yes.
there, right? And
Yeah.
Randy Johnson took over.
Yes.
But they bought it from, I think Ford bought it from
Pete.
Pete. And then, Ford bought it, and
They
then
owned it,
It was,
and then Randy ran it.
minority. Yeah. So, Pete Mercantani's house was in Washington Crossing, and when I'm telling you, you pull up to his yard, the big gates, right? And he said, "You're going to be staying in the guest home, the guest quarters." I said, "Okay, whatever. I've stayed in worse places, I'm sure." This is like a 2,500 square foot home, and this was the guest house.
Right.
It was like, wow, man, like big money.
Big money.
But that fueled my love for that. So so that now it's all coming back to me now. So Lawrenceville is closer to Trenton, basically, isn't it? Or is it? Like you had to cut. You're only a half hour from here?
Half an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Trenton, there's Ewing, Lawrenceville,
Right.
and then as you go up 206, you hit Princeton.
That's right. 206. That's right. Yeah.
So we're close to, I'm 5 minutes from Rider College.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
So
All right. So, let's get to the most interesting question. Worst interview. Anything come to mind?
yeah, actually 2. Well, we were talking before. So the worst interview and then biggest mistake
Right.
people make. So there was an interview. I was helping with a inbound customer service center. Someone actually came to an interview with no shoes on.
Like
For you,
It was
like
summer. It was hot. Barefoot.
Barefoot.
Barefoot. And I'm thinking, I'm sorry. Right? I mean, I've had people with kids and all the rest of that, but no, that was number one.
Yeah. No shoes.
No shoes. That was bad. And then some of the worst mistakes. I wrote an article about it because it was frustrating me. I was interviewing people, and probably 2 years ago.
Jeez,
and,
I think I remember this.
it was like the 5 mistakes, and one of them was not knowing about my company.
Yeah. Yeah.
People sit in front of me, and I start every interview or even my team saying, tell me a little bit about my company.
Yep.
And they, I think you do some marketing. I'm like, eh. And I told somebody right there at one time, I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to stop the interview, but let me help you.
Good.
Let me help you
Nice.
for your next interview.
Right.
It's not that hard. You do some research. Again, it's not, I don't need you to go online like if you're going to some big company to go find their 501, all their financial. I said, it's easy to find me and my brother online. It's not that hard.
That's correct.
Right? You can find us, type it in. There we are. Yep. You need to understand that. You don't need to know. Don't ask the questions. Where are you going to be in 5 years? And but at least have a concept of what it was. Where I had someone who had a great interview. He was applying for a graphic designer job. He said, "Hey, I looked at your website and I just came up with a couple ideas. Could I show them to you?" I was like, "Whoa, that's awesome."
Gotta love that.
Right. That's initiative. So, but that to me was my biggest pet peeve.
Yep.
But that article actually led me into a friend's father. My son was playing baseball, another kid on the team, his father. Hey, I read that article. So posting on LinkedIn works. So he goes, hey, I read your article. Would you speak to our group? We have a volunteer group that meets every Friday to help people in job transition. So I've done 3 or 4 of their things. You hear them. They're called ones like the Breakfast Club. But this one is... oh, God, now I'm going to butcher their name. Princeton Services Group. I think that's what it is. But they meet at the Princeton Library every Friday, and it's free, and they bring speakers in, and it's all about helping people with job search. So I've talked to them about how to, exactly that, like mistakes people made. I'm on this side of the desk. Don't do that.
Right.
And you have interview coaches and career coaches there. I'm like, I'm not selling anything. I'm doing this because I'm trying to help.
Right.
And then we talked about marketing and using social media and how, because a lot of these folks are our age. Yep. They get transitioned out and they're in their 40s, 50s, or even later. And the last time they applied for a job was 10 years ago. 12 years ago.
And everything was different.
Everything was different. And they're still with the paper resume and they're, well, what about the job boards? And I'm like, you got to market yourself completely differently. And so that's just volunteer. So that's the, let's see, those are the mistakes. Worst one I ever did. I made you laugh outside.
Yes.
I was in between jobs and I was trying to build my own company before I joined with Brian. And I needed, my wife and I, we had 2 kids, got to get benefits. So I went and I applied for a job, helping with processes and training. And that was what I was doing for a company that was a supply chain management and stuff like that. And what made you laugh was literally halfway through the interview, I'm going, woo, I'm in over my head.
Yep.
And I'm going through the interview. I had to fly there, go there, and I'm freaking out. And I'm thinking to myself, going, "Ooh, I hope I don't get this job," because I have no idea what they're talking about things. I'm going, I don't think I can do that. Now, part of it was I wasn't, I was going through a time of trying to build my confidence back up, but I was laughing. I was going, my God, if I got this job within 2 weeks, they're going to go, what a mistake. What a mistake. Because I'm way over my head. And I'm just nodding my head going, yeah.
Well, within what you were saying, Yeah,
it's perfect.
It's amazing to me how people who want to become trainers for our company. Now, these are people who have been in the auto business. They're not young little kids. I mean, they're experienced people.
Top-notch people.
Right.
On paper.
Will fire off a resume or call and brag about themselves. And, okay, tell me a little bit about AutoMax.
Right.
They can't.
Of course.
They have no clue who we are, what we do, or anything. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So part of it, I used to get annoyed, pretty ticked off at people. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You're gone. I'm not going to consider you.
Right.
But I read your article about educating somebody. Maybe they just didn't know. I found it, I don't know, it kind of softened my approach with people like that. And I ask them, I say, look, okay, I still want to talk to you, but you got to come back with a little bit better understanding of what you're asking to be a part of. Hardly anybody would.
No, but here's the thing. Amazing. People don't.
Why won't they do that?
Well, because I think is generational.
Yes.
I think it's generational. I mean, think about, it's very hard even for people, we were just talking about it before we went on about social media and Instagram and everything else like that. It's not part of our nature. We were part of the generation. I mean, I'm late 50s, so, you're going to be, You're part of the generation of seen, not heard. Don't brag about yourself, right? And so you're okay, not going to brag. They'll tell you what you want. I think a lot of it comes down to, well, I don't want to go in and tell you about your business and show off to you, versus I'll wait. You'll tell me what you want from me. I know I can do the job, and you're going to tell me everything about your company that I need to know, versus me coming in going, hey, I saw this. It's a weird dynamic, and I think that's part of it. But to your point is, once you tell them, do some research.
Right.
If they don't want to, well, then I don't want you in my business
Exactly
anyway.
right.
You can't do that.
Right. Well, that's what he does now. Do your due diligence. Here's how to check us out.
Yep.
Good, bad, or the ugly. Just whatever. Check us out, and then if you're still interested, then we'll start the process.
Right.
And then they still, well, what's it pay? And then it's like, seriously, dude, bang, delete.
Delete.
They start with, I'm King Kong. I should work for you. No, I don't know anything about your company, and
you better pay me a lot.
And how much do I get paid? It's like, what a bad start.
It is when people start interviews like that.
Yeah.
How much time off do I get? What do I get paid?
Yeah, people actually do that.
Oh, no, I'm telling you, I sit in front of people and people they're on their best behavior. And that's the other thing that I let our team do most of the interviewing.
Yeah, good.
Until, and even now I've completely mostly backed out because I trust the people, because I always say you have to work with them.
Right. Yeah.
I could love them, but you got to work with them.
Right.
And you need to spend time with them.
Right. And sometimes human nature puts you in such a position where the people that work for you, if you say, well, I really like the guy.
Yeah.
There's rarely is someone going to say, take the other. Well,
I let them do it first. They do all the pre-screens. They do everything. They have a couple people talk to them.
Yeah, good.
And because it doesn't matter what I think. I look for, as I say, when they're finally sitting across from me,
right.
I'm looking at them to say, are you a fit? Could I sit across from you? Can I see you at the conference table and we're all working on a project together? Can I see you? Do I get a sense that you fit the culture, the craziness of who we are?
Right.
That's my stamp.
Right. But
because my team's smarter than me, and in a lot of these things they have to learn all the technical stuff and let them go do it.
One of the things that we found out early on, and we've been doing this now for 21 years, this past November, which is shocking. We're kind of a 20-year overnight sensation.
It's been phenomenal.
Yeah, business is pretty good. One of the reasons why my son is not here today. A scripted word-for-word interview. When I worked in stores, here's how I would interview. So, you're 59. Did you say you're 59?
This year I will be
59. And you married a 25-year-old model? It's like, what?
No,
did you lie to her?
25. No.
You must have lied to her like something horrible.
No, actually, you want to hear a funny story about that? That when my wife is about 10 and a half years younger than I am. So when I met her,
okay, go ahead and tell the lie any way you want.
No, that's the truth.
Okay.
So we started dating, and she called her mother up and said, oh, I met this man. And, she was 29 at the time, so I was maybe 38 or whatever. She goes, oh, he's 38. He's divorced. And what's wrong with him? And she goes, oh, no, he's never been married. What? 38, never been married? What's wrong with him? Right? I'm like, great. I can't win either way.
No, you're not going to win that one. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's a good story. So at any rate, the scripted interview, I would interview, so you'd come in and you'd be suited up, so I'd have one interview for you. Then the 23-year-old kid would come in with, his pants halfway down his ass and, clip-on tie. Mm-hmm. That's all he's got. So I'd interview him or her a different way, and then you'd have a younger female, an older female, the color of a person's skin. I'd have 14 different interviews, right? Now, for one position, there's no way to differentiate those people then because they've each gotten a different interview.
Sure.
So you're going strictly on gut, so you might as well just literally go old school and have them fog up a mirror. It's stupid.
Right.
So we insisted on and we've been using the same interview for whatever. I mean,
15.
it's like 2 million times, literally. Excuse me. Because that way, if every single person has been asked exactly the same question,
Sure.
then we can sit back and go, okay, well, these 9 fall within the parameters that we're looking for the dealer.
Sure.
These 4.
You remove the variables.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
You remove the variable.
Exactly
They're the
right.
variable, not your interview process.
Yes, that's exactly right, Glenn.
Exactly. But that's the way successful. That's one of my frustrations, well, it keeps us busy when we go into dealerships is that, when I'm working with processes or even marketing, everything changes. They're emotional. And the more consistent you can be, it's an interesting thing. When as I said earlier, I was an actor for a while. And so.
Do you know that?
No.
This is great. Dude.
So I was a director one time was talking to an actor who did the whole, all this blocking. It was a play, all this blocking, telling me I have to be over here. It's cramping my creative freedom, right? And he sat there and actually explained it, and then it clicked. He said, no, actually having that framework, and where you're going to be, and this is what happens. Actually, you're more free within structure. Mm-hmm. And it's an interesting thing. Dealerships, a lot of times, don't want to have all these documented processes and don't want to have all of the rigidity. Right. In their mind, it's rigidity, and salespeople tell you, I know how to sell.
Scripts and so forth.
The more documented everything is, it's one of my things I talk about, 4 pillars. One of them is everything needs to be documented. So take the variables out. Everybody knows what they're supposed to do. That role, this is how we do it.
Right.
Look at McDonald's. You don't go in there and just wing it. And,
right.
And if you worked at Burger King, you don't go in and say, well, here's how we do it at Burger King. They say, okay, anyway, here's how we do it here. And that's how they were able to franchise. That's how they're able to hire the 15-year-old kid to the 60-year-old person who needs a job, and they're all productive.
Yep. Yeah. It's interesting, I think, that marketing, especially digital marketing, and recruitment are really, when you really look at it, they're very similar. The ad's got to get seen, right? Number one. And in the recruiting world, the science behind it has really changed dramatically. You're not recruiting. No one's going to see your ad unless you're on Google Jobs. And to get your ad on Google Jobs, it takes some coding that no car dealer is going to be able to do on their own.
Right.
So they're being held hostage by Indeed, ZipRecruiter. Sorry, Zip. I still want you as a sponsor, but facts are facts. So now your ad's got to get seen, which you have to do for your clients.
Sure.
Right? I mean, I don't know if it's 1, 2, or 3, and then the content's got to be compelling.
Sure.
Right? And content is king in what you do. It's got to be tagged properly, keyworded properly, again, so it gets seen by the right people.
Sure.
And then a call to action, send your resume, and then, the process goes from there. It's right?
It's all the same. I mean, you're marketing your client's position.
Right. Talent. We're looking for talent.
But you're marketing.
For car buyers.
Well, that's the same thing.
Right,
so
exactly.
their product is, I have a job opening.
Right.
And so you're marketing the job opening and putting it in front of people, very much like any of this is marketed as a product put in front of the right eyeballs. So it's exactly the same.
Yep.
You're just your product is that job.
And one other component, how the applicant or the car buyer is treated once they've applied, once they've responded to the ad.
Good point.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, that's all marketing too, which is a hard thing for a lot of dealers or business owners to understand. When I go into, we talked about it when we wrote the book with Tracy and Troy. When you get into the store, everything still available. Everything you do in the store from physically what they see is marketing. It's reinforcing your message that they saw.
Yeah.
How you talk to them. Every email you send out is marketing. Every phone call you do is marketing. How you greet them is marketing. But people don't think that. They think marketing is, that's that company over there, or that's my TV ad.
Right. They'll just come in, the customers.
But even when they do, for some reason it's a disconnect of understanding that how your customer service, how you deal is either pulling them closer to you or pushing them away. And either then they're going to look at it and go, oh, well, that marketing, you made this promise and then you didn't deliver.
Right.
Because you didn't answer the phone,
right.
You were rude. You told me you'd call back and you never did, or you sent one email. Oh, why aren't they coming in? It's no different.
No, it isn't, and it's hard. It's hard for me sometimes because I see a lot of it. I see a lot of vendors on social media, whether it be Facebook or even LinkedIn, Twitter, all of them, bashing their own clients, bashing dealers. Right? It's like, this dealer sucks. And it's like, dude, you're a vendor. You're calling all your customers assholes. You can't do that. However, out of the other side of my mouth, this has got to happen in your company where you get ghosted. You talk to a potential client and they're like, let's go, man. What do we do next? Right. And then it's like, they're gone. It's like they won't return a phone call, an email, a text. They just ghost us.
Communication.
Yeah, it's just weird, and it's happened last couple of years. It's been very prevalent.
Absolutely.
It's not everybody.
Well, they're getting. Dealerships are getting to your earlier point, or actually was your point, where everything now is getting more compressed, meaning that it's just busier. Every year you go to NADA or you go somewhere else, and there's usually the new, right? 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I had this conversation saying, 4 years ago it was your reviews.
Right.
So everybody's talking about that. And
right.
3 years ago, social media advertising, and then, then everybody's in agency doing SEO. I'm going, who the hell are you,
man.
right? So the problem is
crazy.
the problem is the dealers are getting bombarded. They don't know who to trust, and also they are. You've seen it. They move at 1,000,000 miles an hour. So what's good today? All of a sudden something blows up tomorrow, or we're having a bad day, or a bad month, and it's just stop everything. And so I don't think they're ghosting. At least I would hope. I mean, I don't think I don't think their excitement is incorrect, or their intention is. It's just the newest distraction.
Right.
That was one of the best things that a dealer said to me. He goes, being an automotive dealer is a business of distractions.
It is. You're constantly.
And he goes, that's what it is.
It's reactionary. It's not a really good plan, but it is reactionary. Because you have very little choice because you're constantly, things are happening every second.
And it's hard to take a step back to hit reset correctly.
Right.
I was having a conversation with my friend Brent Weiss this morning.
Yeah, he just started his own company, didn't he? Or
he's still doing stuff with the Next Up, but he's doing a little consulting and things like that.
Those people from the Next Up are awesome. Aren't they
are great. That is a phenomenal product for anybody who has not seen the Next Up. It helps organize, your sales process, and it allows your team to be really efficient. The funny thing is, one of the things that they found as a piece that they actually had to help dealers with is that it now allowed people, so short theory of it would be it's a managed sales floor, right? So when you're next up, or you're out there when you're next up, that means I can go do my work.
Correct.
And then when you're done and you're there, then I get a beep and we'll go. Right. So in a simple way, that is. What they had to say was, I had to help the dealers figure out what those people are supposed to be doing with all this extra time, with their extra time.
Yeah.
Because they're used to being busy and running around.
To your point, that's what Frank Lopes talked about.
Right.
If we literally worked, he has this rule of sevens.
It was great. I watched that.
It's like if we were totally honest with ourselves and worked 7 real hours a day, I mean, really worked. Not what, sometimes, is this work, what we're doing right now?
Yes,
I don't know.
working very hard.
Yeah. So it's like, 7 hours of really putting your head down and going after it. It'd be amazing what we could really accomplish. But I don't know that it happens like that. But
We're still human.
Well,
Yeah,
it
well,
is,
we are. That's
but
right.
you need structure.
So what
that's
would
why.
you tell a dealer because I would guess, and this is strictly a guess, but I'm probably right on this. I wish we had our Google friend here. Joe's the only one that answers to, so we couldn't bring our Google Home in here. Joe has control of everything. I think he's trying to.
Yeah, where is he? I'm a little offended that
You
he's
should
not.
be.
I'm totally
You
offended,
should be.
even though I brought you a nice bottle of wine, missing
Right.
Joe.
Right. Joe, I think I'm going to take that and get off the wagon. I'm going to celebrate my 26 years of sobriety June 10th by drinking a bottle of this wine. I think.
That's not going to happen. I'll
No.
break it.
No.
Call the
He'll just give it to someone else.
call a SWAT team if you give me alcohol, man. But what? So, I think dealers got to be hit with digital marketing or an ad agency. It got to be the number one call they get. Got to be. I mean, they're getting sold a lot of stuff, but
Right.
so a dealer's looking at your company and 3, 4, 5 others or whatever. How do you help them get through all the minutia to get to? Because I know with your dashboard and the way that you guys combine, because you combined all the vendors. You're still doing that, right?
Well, actually, that was sold to
That's
Car
right.
Wars.
Yeah. That's right.
Dan Moore has moved on, and
That's
he's over
right.
there heading that
That's
division.
right. Yeah. Did you see the picture of their new home?
I talked to him the other day, and I said,
Whoa.
"Whoa, look at that!" He goes, "Yeah, it's a little
That's
nice, little beautiful house."
I can remember the first time I saw him spoke was at a Ziegler battle plan. Man, that was years ago.
Yeah.
And he sucked. He was so, and I love you, Dan. It was so bad. He was so nervous. Sorry, Dan, because I do love you, dude. But it was so bad. But look where he's at today. So
He's a great. He is truly one of my good friends.
Oh, he's a
He's
super
another
guy.
one. Good people. He's someone you should put on your list one time when he's
Yeah,
out
he's
here on
definitely.
this side of the.
I know that's the only problem with this setup is luckily
come
we
in.
have some great people, but there's been people that come in from, we've had them from Virginia, that comic that we're going to have on this
York?
month. He's from New York, I think. Blah, blah, blah. But we have people from all over the country. It's weird. They come in, we put them up overnight. That's
There you
all. We don't pay them to come on. So
What I am hoping to is get a better understanding of what it is that you do, like dummy it down so that what is all of
our madness. It's a very funny thing. For many years, people always ask that. What exactly do you do? Because you almost seem like you do everything. Some of it was when I joined Brian. He was the face, and we push him out, and so I would run the company. So we sort of joke that Brian's really good at ideas and has good vision on a lot of things, and his instincts are really good. But as he says, I'm really not good manager of people. I'm not good at the details. So I like building things. I'm a pure process builder. So I say, you have the ideas. We used to joke, is like he would have an idea, throw it over his shoulder, I'll pick it up and I'll build it. Right. So I built.
that's a good partnership.
Yeah. So I build. We don't fight over the same things. We're not in the same space. So we're even right now when he's out there focusing on data and analytics, and I'm over here going, yeah, that's great, but what are we going to do with the data? Let me go show your people what to do with it. So, so we started when I joined Brian. We still do. We have a digital agency. We focus on SEO and SEM, paid search, social media advertising, content creation, branding, all wrapped in for clients who want to do that over time. So that's how we started. And then as it evolved, we started to get more consultative business because Brian and I were writing a lot. And so people would come to us through our events or just speaking at events.
Right.
They'd say, listen, I have vendors. I don't need a new vendor, to your point, when they're getting hit with everything. I don't need a new vendor, but I need some help. Can you help me figure all this stuff out?
Right.
So all of a sudden we started pivoting.
That's a different thing.
Yeah,
That's more of a partnership.
Right. So we started to pivot a little into consulting, and we created a company called PCG Consulting at that time to separate it. So Brian would be over here and I'd be over here, because we also wanted to make sure that when we went in and said, you might have to change this, it wasn't, the fear was, you're just going to come in and tell me everybody's horrible just to win business. And we said, no, here it is.
Yeah.
And if we recommend
a lot
something,
do it that way.
Oh,
a lot
yeah.
of consultants.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Right.
But so our point was, if we're going to recommend ourselves, we'll recommend 2 other people too. And then
that's
you
interesting.
go figure it out. And if we can work together, great. If we can't. But then they still liked the fact that we were helping them, which then evolved into, we had always hosted events. So we were doing that. Then we also, with our writing, started creating online courses to teach people, because then people would say, hey, could we hire you? We have someone in our dealership that is doing some of the social media stuff. Could you train them? And we were like, sure. So we started doing that. And we evolved. And a lot of people always would take their cue from what Brian was talking about, is that's the only thing you did.
Yeah.
And so literally last year, because we had the consulting and we had the event company, and then we just combined it to call it PCG Companies, to just put it back under. We had the AWA awards. We were doing research papers. We were doing audits.
That's right.
And everybody was just like, oh, my God. Literally within 2 weeks' time, I had 3 people call me up and ask me for recommendations. Do you know a good digital marketing agency? And I'm going, we have one. Oh, I thought you shut that down because I didn't see Brian talk. I said, okay. So we went through a rebrand, PCG Digital, and then Brian put everything else under BPE. So all of the consulting, the training, the events, research are all under his banner, just because he's always associated with that more than the agency. And then PCG Digital is our agency.
Right.
So we do a little of both, and that's the way we look at it and say, we can help a dealer in a variety of ways, or we also know people that go, okay, you need that, go to that person, you need that, and we just share.
Yeah, we what was the a boot camp?
Yeah, automotive marketing boot camp.
So there was one in Philly.
Yes,
and
people still talk about that one.
Okay, it was awesome. So I'm sitting in your brother's room. I don't recall. I think, yes, I do too. He was talking about branding. Packed room, whatever it held.
Right.
It was packed. 3 minutes in, he decides that, okay, he's going to pick on me for like 10 minutes. So it's like, here's Craig Lockard. Who in the audience right now knows Craig Lockard? And I don't know, 10 people put up their hands. Do you know the name of the company that he owns? AutoMax Recruiting. And like 25 people raised their hands. He said, Craig, you're the brand. I'm getting tired of seeing this. This isn't a quote, but this is damn close.
Right.
Now, this is a room full of people. Mm-hmm. Brian says, I'm really getting sick of the crap videos that you're shooting. Stop being so cheap. Buy a good camera. Get a green screen and some lighting. Okay, you're the brand, period. And he said more. I mean, it was like, he was like in my face about it, you know. Yeah. But it played well for the, it made all the sense in the world looking back on it. So I took him to heart, and that's exactly what I did. Mm-hmm. Now, it had, because it was AutoMax. Yeah. I intentionally did not want to be, I didn't want to be the brand.
Right.
I wanted the team, AutoMax, all 33 of us or whatever, to be the team. Because I thought that made sense. Because everyone else was, Jim Ziegler, what's the name of his company? Nobody knows, or Cardone or any of the, Verde. And I'm not comparing myself to any of those guys, but as an example. But now the problem is it worked so well. It's like very few people know that we have 33 people working with us, for one thing. Number two is I'm not going to be around forever. So if something happens to me, which ultimately will happen, then it's Joe. Joe's not here, is he?
Missing Joe.
Joe, right.
Wow, he's short. No.
Right. He lost an inch or two. So it's got to be him and Ernie.
Right.
So I need to flip that over.
You start to
little bit.
Well, you just
Without
start
backing down on mine.
No, absolutely. I mean, we're doing it right now. We promoted Denise Casagrande to run. She's now the president and COO of the agency because although I was running it and was being part of the face of the agency, I also found I was becoming a bottleneck because I was on the road working and things needed to happen. And she earned it and deserved it. And so we promoted her. But now you'll see her out there branding herself. And we're pushing her. I'm saying you have to be the face of this. Good. So you can do it. It just has to be a plan now to say, well, how do we get Joe? What does Joe, what's his message? What's your message? Right. And just as much as you, they become another face. And then all of a sudden, that's the easy transit over time. Right. You say, go to Frank's Sevens. Right. You say, look, over the next 7 months. Right. Over the next 7 months, we're going to map out something. Now, you can say 7 years, whatever, but if you said, listen, over the next 7 months, we want to start, in 7 months' time, I want people to see just you, Ernie, just Joe talking about this. Right. And so then people will go, oh, who's that? Right.
Because truth be known, these guys, Joe and Ernie, run the company.
Right, but to Brian's point, you are the brand. People do. The key, I think, a lot of what we were talking about earlier is people, and especially dealers, they hate the fact. Some of them hate the fact that they have to deal with the faceless companies. Yep. Right? They like companies when they say, oh, they don't talk about the company. They talk about, the guy or the gal that they're talking with, their contact out there. I have a great rep.
Can make that decision.
Right. Or they just say, I have a great rep who helps me. And that's the company. The company is them. The product can be as great as you want. Right. Right. And to your earlier question about dealers getting bombarded with a million different things. Yeah. It's all, nobody has the secret sauce. Although some people say, hey, it's proprietary secret sauce. There's no secret sauce. There's technology, it's marketing, it's a little science, it's content, it's your creative. But at the end of the day, nobody's got secret sauce. I'm sorry. So anybody who tells you I have secret sauce or I can't share my reports because it's proprietary, like nonsense. Right. So I think people like dealing with someone that they know or they can associate. So they associate your company with you, and that's fine. They associate our companies with me and Brian. Right. Now, and again, you can add people to the mix, but you don't want to be in this day and age. 10 years ago, maybe it's just the company. Oh, that hiring company. Right. But still, it's going to be, I worked with Ernie, and I love the company because it's him. Right. So that's what so now you're just adding in 2 more people that they can trust as a face. Right. So when they call up, they're like, oh yeah, I know you. I know you because I watch your videos all the time, and I get a sense of who you are. Right. That's the key. Right.
We've been trying to do more of that with, and Joe cut a series of videos called Recruit to Retain, I think was the name of that series of the playlist. But it's stuff like that. It's important, man. And you go so long. I mean, there are not that many vendors in the auto space that have been around 21 years. So it's kind of a...
And you got to, our philosophy, Brian's and my philosophy is sort of same thing now. You hear some people out there, speakers talking about it. It's like we go from the rule of thirds. We learned about that a long time ago. Rule of thirds, which is, we basically tell people exactly what we do. I tell them exactly what to do. I show them how to do it. All of our stuff, Brent and I were talking this morning about actionable stuff, right? So if you read some of my stuff, I'm like, here it is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you watch a session of mine, it's like, here's how you do it. I'm giving you the list. A third of the room is going to nod their head and go, yep. And they go back and they take it and they do it.
Yes.
And they love you. And guess what? They're going to ask for more help later on.
Right.
What else you got up your sleeve?
Right.
Middle is going to say they're going to do something, but they're going to get busy and forget about it and really do nothing. And then a third of the room is going to try and fail miserably because they can't do it.
Right.
And guess what? They're
Retain
going to call you.
Right.
So I always look at it as 2/3 of the room I get. One is going to, I got to do the work for. The other one is going to have some consultative. They're on my speed dial. They'll recommend, hey, these guys are really good. I don't need them, but you got to do that. So when you're doing your recruiting stuff that you were like, Joe, tell them how to hire people. Here's what you look for. This is what you do. And still a bunch of them won't do it or can't do it, and that's okay.
Yep.
But there's other people that can, and they're going to love you.
Yes. I mean, that
has been.
Yeah, that's exactly, because I got taken on, everybody, I think you questioned me at one point. It's like, Craig, why do they need us? You're giving them literally every single piece of information to do exactly what we're going to do.
Because they won't do it.
Right.
They won't.
At first, though, when you first start that, you don't know that that's going to be the outcome.
No,
right?
and I
So
totally
that's,
understand. It is a leap of faith
Sure
that.
it is. I mean, and Bill Doobie, chose to, he did exactly what I told him to do. I mean, by the letter, yet, a month ago he called me and said, I need help with, I forget what the position was.
Service manager.
Right. So it's
But you became trusted because your intention was, it was funny. Someone said this to me the other day. And at first I wasn't sure if I was offended or complimented. But they were talking and they said, it was a salesperson who said to me, see, here's your problem. You want to help them, not sell them. I want to sell them and not help them. Meaning he doesn't want to stay around. I just want to sell them and move on to the next one. It wasn't like, I hate people. It's like, my job is to sell it and move on and go sell. You want to spend time helping people, but you don't pull the trigger to sell. And it's like, no, I get enough sales, but I'm not that. I don't think that way. I always think of, I want to help. How can I fix it? What can I do?
That's a horrible way to think. His way. That's horrible. Horrible.
I'm just saying, when they said it, I was like, oh,
I can tell you firsthand, years ago, we owned a company called AutoMax Service Solutions. We did fixed ops. And it was a turnaround situation where we took a percentage of the increase in their customer pay per repair order and parts gross. And the first year, it was crazy. And these were, how long were those contracts? Were they 6 months?
But they were a year.
Well, they might have been a year. You're right. They were like
year.
obscene contracts. Like, who would sign a year contract for something like that? And a brand new company. Well, we sold like 100 dealers. Now, the money was substantial.
sure.
The next year let's say, I don't know, these figures are exact. The next year we maybe signed 70, but we had lost 40 from the first year. Third year was like we sold 60, but lost 70. So we were hell on wheels and selling it, but we couldn't produce when we were in there. And it was, ultimately I said, I see a trend here. I want bought out, so cash me in.
Well, something else, when you're sharing that information like that, and it is extremely helpful to anybody who would actually use it, it still changes though, right? In a year, 2 years, 3 years from now. So they've got to kind of come back to you anyway because you are the source of knowledge.
That's true.
How much is what you've shared, I don't know, 5 years ago, 3 years ago?
Totally different.
Right?
Now.
And you gave them the flat out, here is exactly what we do and how we do it, and that's what you're doing.
Right.
But it changed,
right.
So you still remain relevant to that.
Yeah, it's how do they see you in the market? Are you a trusted resource on that topic?
Yeah.
Right. So for you, it's, hey, I need some help. So either I'm going to study your content, I'm going to read your articles, or I'm going to call and ask for advice, or I'm going to call you up because I people talk well about you and you seem to deliver.
Right.
But to your point is everything evolves. I mean,
Yeah.
things like every day we wake up and go, oh, did Google change something? Because then it's like, because what we did
the answer
6
to that
months.
is yes every day.
Yeah,
So-
but what you did 6 months or a year ago doesn't work
correct.
as well, or
Right.
something changed, or it's too expensive, or it's getting more expensive, and so it's a constant flux. But it's the point of they come back to ask you the question, what changed? What should I be doing? That's the key. I want those
Yeah.
phone calls.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where it's at, right?
Yeah.
Because that relationship that you're building right then and there, that lasts forever, or has the potential of lasting forever.
Yeah, I think if you're going at it to help, even if you can't do it, right? So I've recommended people to Troy because I don't do certain things that he does. So I'm
Right.
like, well, I trust him.
Right.
At least talk to them.
Right.
I'm not saying that's the only one, but you definitely need to put him on your list to go talk to.
Isn't that interesting? Car dealers that are listening right now or watching, or people from other industries, what Glenn just said is he recommended basically a competitor,
Sure,
basically,
sure.
for his potential client to call his competitor because he was better at.
Well, at one time, Troy did not do digital.
Right,
He only
exact-
did, but
right.
through the book and through talking, I even said, we had conversations, and I'm not saying I'm the one that told him to do it, but he's smart enough to figure out I should add this into my suite of stuff.
Right.
And now he does it. So what?
Right,
I'm
right.
like, and to that point, when one of our first events, we did these small little, what we call pit stops. And that's where we met some really good friends who are still friends as sponsors. There was 4 or 5 sponsors, and you signed on for all 8 or 10 shows. And every month you'd go to a different city, and we'd promote it. But one of the people who was on that, who I met, we're still friends, is Paul Potratz, who has his agency.
He's a great guy, man.
He's a great guy. So he had an agency, right? And we had a website provider and a few other people. And people would say to me, "Why do you have Paul?
Right.
He's an agency.
Right.
You're an agency. Why do you
Right.
have him on there?" I said, well, number one, he's a nice guy. When we met him, we were like, oh, he's nice.
Right.
But we used to joke. We'd say at that time, there's 18,000 or however many dealers.
Right.
I said, Paul, if you had 1,000 and I had 1,000,
Right.
we'd be
We
doing
good?
cartwheels down the street.
Right.
And there's still 16,000 for everybody else.
Right. Yeah.
So why are we fighting?
Right.
Why are we bad mouthing? Listen, it's not necessarily a zero-sum game, but for CRMs and websites, it's a little bit of a zero-sum. Somebody gets if I sign somebody got the pink slip. Same thing for us. We bring
Yeah.
somebody on to digital,
right. Yeah.
somebody got the pink slip, we get the pink slip, somebody's high-fiving somewhere else.
That's right.
The key is, as my friend Joe Gillespie, who owns Dealery Process, used to say, as long as you're plus, like if you lose 10, sign 11. As long as you're plus at the end of the month, then that's a good month.
This sounds eerily how we run our company.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want to lose 10, but because people are
Right.
getting bombarded, dealers are, and
Yeah.
they don't know the new shiny person,
Exactly.
the new pitch coming in, and you're buttoned
Exactly.
up. And listen, I've sat through some pitches from some vendors, and holy God, they're good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going, damn, I got to figure out how to do that. Like, they're good at what they do to present. Now, did they 6 months later, they're gone because they couldn't deliver.
Yes.
But it's still the game. And so you have people. So what you have to bank on is, do we deliver? And even when we deliver and we're sitting there going, we're doing a great job. Owner comes back from a 20 group. Well, Bob, who's the best dealer, uses this person, and boom. Or new general manager comes in and fire all the vendors because I don't and didn't look at the data, didn't see. And we're going, look at the results we're getting. I have my own vendors.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that. And so as long as everyone who leaves us, I or now Denise make a phone call to and say, what happened? Why did we leave? How did we lose that value?
Right.
Sometimes they're nice to say, oh, no, it wasn't you. It was nothing.
Right.
Sometimes they'll tell you, well, I was looking for this. Or sometimes they'll tell you, it was not my control. I
Right.
want you guys to stay, but they're getting things.
Right.
As long as I can say we did everything we could
Right.
to the best of our ability,
Right.
I still don't like losing. But we can go back and try and train and get better at what we do to make them feel comfortable, and not when somebody's pitching them that they go, no, I'm good.
Right. Well, again, I think the parallels between what you do and what we do are very similar in the fact that if the dealer does not follow the process that we've set up for him or her,
Right.
Here's what's going to happen. Now, what are you going to do with this additional traffic? Or, what's our next step?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming you guys lay it out.
Sure.
Here's what we're going to do. Now, here's what you need to do. So you didn't set your money on fire.
Right.
We do the same thing with dealers, and it's like, it didn't work. Well, you hired 11 people, and that was 3 weeks ago. So
yeah,
what do you think might
have
happen?
I had a conversation one morning. Someone called me up and they said, "Oh, it's not working." This
Right.
wasn't a client; it was consulting.
Right.
Just can I pick your brain? It's not working. this marketing stuff, and I'm not selling any more cars. I'm like, well, let's look at your data. I'm like, you've increased your leads, right? How many leads how many people do you have in your BDC that are handling this? You got like 800 leads, 900 leads. I got 2. I'm like, well, hire some more people.
There you
I
go.
can't hire people.
Why?
Well, why? Well, I don't want to increase the headcount. Okay, well then cut your marketing budget. No, I don't
Right.
want to cut my marketing budget. I need the leads. But then hire more people. No, I can't. And I said, whoa, I haven't had enough coffee to have this conversation.
Yeah.
And it's that gerbil wheel of they don't follow. I like your elephant. I have like the octopus recently as my image for, decisions have tentacles that go through everything. So you want to increase your budget. I want to increase my marketing budget. Well, okay, great. Can you handle this? Are you staffed to handle this? So it all has a little tentacle and follow through, but most people don't. They just they throw the rock in the pond over there. They don't worry about the ripple over here. And then when this is going up, they just forget that. They go over here. They don't understand that a lot of these decisions are interrelated and have an impact. What you change in one area, you better be prepared for.
Right.
Right.
If not, then instead of pissing off 100 customers a month, you quadruple your traffic, and now you're pissing off 400.
And I don't think
doesn't make any sense.
And I think dealers sometimes get a bad rap from, like you were saying, some vendors do. It's a tough job.
Being a dealer or manager?
Being a dealer,
Oh,
manager,
man.
all of it. It's very tough.
Very tough.
No question.
They're especially when you go into digital. We had a gentleman who used to be a general manager work for us for a short period of time. Gave it his all. Just didn't like. He liked being in the store where action was moving.
Yeah.
Versus sitting in a room going, well,
Right.
it's sort of boring.
Right.
But I asked him one time. I said, why is digital marketing so not hard, but why is there this fight against getting understanding, getting education? He said, well, Glenn, by the time you're a general manager, you've done every job in the dealership.
Right.
You've pretty much done everything. So you know everybody's job. You can help them. This digital marketing snuck in behind a lot of people.
Yep.
They promised us that, it would be easy. It's not. And type A guys and gals don't like feeling stupid.
Right.
So they'll
Good
fake
point.
it. And he said that's why he liked the education that we had provided online. He goes, I can sit in my office by myself and feel stupid. But he committed to learn how to do it. But it's hard for them because it's a whole new thing that you have to learn to get better at.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. That's a good point, especially with what you do. That's a real good point. They don't want to look stupid, so they won't ask the right questions.
They don't know, but see, it's not that they don't want to. They don't want to look stupid. I mean, that is human nature. But what this gentleman said was, I don't know who to trust. Meaning like online.
Yeah.
And he goes, I don't even know what questions to ask.
Yeah, don't know what you don't know.
So that was part of what going through was, let me tell you, let me help you.
Yeah.
I've sat on calls for consulting clients with their vendors. So I asked the right questions. I know what questions to ask. I'm like, excuse me,
That's interesting.
can you tell me what that means?
But that's, I guess, the challenge with the digital marketing. There's so much to know. And I would imagine that it's constantly changing. And for someone like yourself, is that partly why you enjoy what you do? Is it's constantly evolving?
I think there's two things. One is it's not as complex as people want to make it.
Really?
Well, for what a dealer needs to understand.
Okay.
Right? See, the other thing is dealers, I think, that I've talked to, they think they have to know how to do it. Right? They have to know how to build ads. No, you just need to ask the right questions, meaning I gave you money. What did I get? And what metric really matters, right? So Brian, my brother, we just keep beating it into people's heads is that there's 4, maybe 5, what we call hard conversions. Did it generate a phone call? Right? So just from digital. You can't measure walk-ins. I don't care whatever. Did it get a phone call? Web form? Chat? Did it text? And now maybe click to call mobiles, right? That's it. So that's what a dealer needs to ask. I gave you money.
Right.
Right. I gave you $5,000 for pay-per-click.
Right.
What did I get?
How do I measure it?
Now they'll say, oh, well, impressions, great.
Right.
Right. Troy talks about it. Great. That's frequency and reach and all that other stuff and clicks and okay. But then it's, well, how many clicks did I get? So if you're telling me that I sent all these people to the website, oh, look, man, you had for that $5,000, I got you 1,000 clicks. Your cost per click, $5. Oh, that's good. Okay. And
Right.
well, where did you send them? If I didn't get phone calls or I
Right.
didn't get forms,
Right. Where'd they go?
well, that's the question. If I sent 100 people to a page and nobody did anything, well, something's wrong with the page.
Right.
Thank you. See,
Right.
so it's
Right.
what you
Right.
just did.
Right.
When you have someone
Somewhat
talk,
logical,
That's
then,
the way it
is
should
what you're
happen.
trying to say?
it's someone just needs to help clarify to say, here's the story, right? And connect the dots. So if you think about it, you say, back in the day we had Rolodexes. Now we have CRMs, right? And we have the yellow pages. Well, that's your Google My Business listing. And as soon as you say to a dealer, do you remember the yellow pages? What'd you put in the yellow pages for you? I put my name, put my ad, put that. Well, same thing over here, except now you can put videos and you can do other stuff. Oh, okay. I had a conversation with a dealer about video pre-roll, right? Talking about it. He goes, I don't understand this video pre-roll stuff. And I said, well, let me explain. Do you do commercials? Yes. Okay. Do you ever go online? Yeah, I go online. I get my news and get my sports. I said, you ever try to watch a video and you see that ad? Yeah, they bother me, those things. I said, that's video pre-roll. That's a commercial on before the video. What if I told you could put your commercial in front of people and you could choose the videos? I can do that? Yeah, that's it. I like video pre-roll because someone explained it to them in
Right.
language you understand. So for
Right.
a dealer, listen, opening up analytics is, but it's finding the partner to ask the right questions.
Right.
How many phone calls did I get?
Right.
How many did I get of this? How many did I get of this? How many did I get of this? And then how do I get more? Or how did I, right? Now, it's not my job to sell your cars, meaning once I click and once you get the phone call, that's a whole nother conversation down the pipeline of how you're handling it.
Yep.
But a lot of times marketing companies some do, I will say some, I'm not going to broad brush, but I know some because I've sat on these calls, just will talk about metrics and dealers have no idea what to say. So they were saying, oh, yeah, one vendor, oh, you have a conversion rate of 300. And I was like, excuse me, what the hell are you talking about? What is that? Oh, well, when Google says this, please. He goes, oh, well, look at this. You have conversions. Look at all the conversions. Excuse me. What do you call a conversion? Well, if they go to the hours and directions page, no, that's not a conversion.
No.
They go to the VDP. You're sending them to a VDP. That's not a conversion.
Right.
Once you whack that down, then all of a sudden you start going and just looking. Dealers know how to read a P&L. So if you get a
Right.
good report, they just go, well, why is that expensive?
Right.
Why is that so cheap? What are we
Right.
doing here that we're not doing there?
Right.
If they focus on those 4 conversions, that's why Troy is really, I love his concept of the performance. That's what he talks about. We've had these conversations. It's what traffic am I generating? Yes, I should be sending more people to your website. Absolutely. Well, so does your traditional everything. So that's why it's all connected. How many people are getting to your website?
Yeah.
And now we have ways to tag it and track it to see what they're doing. Right. So yeah, a lot of people don't, if your website, let's say between phone calls and website forms, all those 4 hard conversions, if you had 5,000 people, if you got 500, you're doing cartwheel, right? 10%.
Right.
But what do the other 90% do?
Right.
The reason they don't want to give you their phone number, in my opinion, or their email is they know what you're going to do.
Right.
You're going to blow up their phone.
Correct.
Which is fine, but don't complain.
Right.
Don't
Right.
complain that people don't want to give me your number. Well, you blew up their phone. Right. So it's okay. Deal with those 10%. But if I can track what those other 90% are doing, are they looking? How many people are what we call shopping behavior? How many people are playing around with the trade-in tools? How many people are looking at your VDPs, looking at your photos? How many people are looking at multiple pages? How many people are looking at this video or that video? Okay, now I'm sending engaged shoppers, right?
Yeah.
That's what we talk about. Our
Right.
goal for our agency is to send qualified shoppers. Now, the word qualified, some people go, oh, that means they're ready to buy. No. Qualified means that they're shopping behavior. They're
Right.
doing stuff. They're
Right.
not just landing and leaving,
Right.
landing
They-
and leaving.
They've made a decision to buy something at some time.
They're in they
That decision's been
right.
made.
If you think about it, if you buy a car last week, you're not going to a dealership.
Right.
You're not going on dealerships' websites.
Right.
But if I'm on a website somewhere, I'm going to say in the next 90
Right.
days,
Right.
at the outside, because listen, my lease is up in October,
Right.
and I'm going. "Ugh,
Yeah. Gotta
I
start
gotta
now.
start right or I'm going end of summer. I'll
Yeah.
wait till September. I'll wait till August.
Yeah.
Right. Part of that
End
is
of the
what
month.
the behavior is, right? But there's another one.
Yeah.
Why are people coming at the end of the month? Because you told them they'll get a better deal at the end of the month. Stop
Yep.
complaining. Stop complaining.
It's a fact.
Of course it is. You've trained your customer base.
Historical.
Forever.
But
been
it's
done
the
this way.
right. So to your point is, once you understand that, and you have somebody just say what I did to you, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, that makes complete sense. Good.
Right.
That's what you ask.
Right.
Dealers ask them that.
Right.
That's what you want to start with. Now, all the other stuff is great. I want to see clicks, and because if they're not clicking on my ad, then something's wrong with my ad. But where did I send them? What am I getting? What opportunities am I getting, right? If I'm sending 100 people, like I said, 100 people landed on the page and nobody did anything,
Yeah.
I didn't get a phone call, I didn't get this, something's wrong with the page. Maybe, right? Maybe
Yeah.
you're priced wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe you have crappy photos.
Yeah.
Maybe you have, as Brian always claims, which I love, is dealers hate white space on a page. So if they have a little bit of white space, throw another widget on, right? So they have 47. I think we were doing we were with a manufacturer going, and they were showing us a few things. They counted on one of their dealers' websites 14 calls to action on one vehicle detail page.
Wow.
Call for price, call for eBay, value you trade. Like there's 15, but get today's
That's
price, this, but that.
obnoxious.
And then every single thing, when you click on it, guess what it does? It pops up a form, which nobody wants to fill out anyway,
Correct.
instead of chat,
Funnel them.
right?
Yeah.
Like to your point about, engaging while they're there.
Yeah.
Why are we not using more chat? Like as soon as you click on it, great, boom, pop up. Hi, I'm here. What can I do for you? I'll send you whatever you need. Great, fine. Versus send in a form, which they don't want to do, and nobody calls you for an hour or two, and then the questions are just basically when you want to come in and see, right? It's just it's pivoting to create a modern retail experience, but it is still entrenched that we got to go through the 10 steps of road to the sale, no matter what you did online.
You guys have always seemed to, I don't know, be ahead of the curve or stay current or
Right.
past current. I mean, sincerely, I'm not blowing smoke up your skirt here. I mean, it seems like you're just always pushing it to what's the
Right.
next. Artificial intelligence, when or where does that come into play with a company like yours? At some point, I mean, machine learning is,
Well, for us,
robots and everything are.
yeah, I mean,
gonna be
I think
true.
there's companies out there right now with platforms for paid search that are, will tell you they can generate ads or they'll show your ad to the right people based on stuff, and you build in. Google does this too, where you can build one title and some different wording and it'll create different ads. Where I see AI right now, not for our company but for dealers, is in using sort of bots in chat. Right, to get it started. I mean, you don't need a person to say, hi, how are you? What can I do for you? Can you show me this?
Correct.
And so the bot can go find the VDP and push the VDP. Now, the good thing is, if people are paying attention, is you get alerted that somebody started a chat.
Right.
And then you're watching it, and all of a sudden you go, okay, I'm going to take it over.
Right.
Right, just like you would. It's like a TO.
Oh, right.
My mantra these last few months has been sort of similar to the bands that people used to wear. What would Jesus do? WWG. I'm like, well, what would you do if they were standing in front of you? Right? There's still this thing that some salespeople, because I ask when I teach them, question I ask, I said, do you think the online shopper, someone who's on your website or submits their name, or do you think they're as serious as someone who's standing on the lot? And they all go, no. I said, why? If they were serious, they'd come in. It's like, whoa. Here's the thing. They don't have to, because they can sit on the couch and do research with technology. But the fact that you don't think they're serious, right? That was that article I wrote about sense of urgency. What would you say? Ask, what are the, if you were the salesperson and I pointed over and I said, hey, there's this Nissan Rogue, and you'd spit out 3 things, right? Oh, that's a great car because blah, blah, blah. And as we're walking over there, you're going to ask me 10 questions to narrow the field. Great. Why, when I point to that car online, do you not answer, or even when you answer, like, okay, hey, here's the car. When do you want to come in? Right. Versus ask me 10 questions and engage me early, to your earlier point of that's the way how you interact with me online is how I assume you're going to deal with me when I get there.
Yeah, you would hope.
Well, but that's the mentality that I think a lot of people don't. That's where that delay is happening.
Yeah. Well, you have a lack of, I think, from the salesperson's standpoint, or whoever's talking to that person on the phone, it comes down to they don't have geographical, physical control of the customer, so that scares them in terms of transparency and so forth, I think. So
yeah, I think that's foolish, because we do everything online anyway.
Right.
I would think that
you have to.
I would think, though, that most sales within the field, it's only going to come down to the price anyway. Where what you're kind of saying is it doesn't have to be that way, almost to the point of how you run your business, where you're willing to share an excessive amount of information. I was just wondering if perhaps the industry changed a little bit in that way, where online they gave away more information, or just were, I don't know, more engaging and developed that relationship. Would that pay off?
I think so. I think at the end of the day, price is price. Price is always going to be a driving factor.
Yep.
But for most dealers, when you go look at price, go pick 3 websites, same brand, same market. They're all within dollars of each other, because either the manufacturer limits the pricing and says you can't go below this or whatever.
Right.
And everybody still plays. And that, again, goes back to you've trained your customers that the price is never the price. And even the price that you have is not the price. And the first price that you tell me is not the price. Okay, so it's real, and let alone it's just hard to buy a car. When you try to put a deal together, you both could be looking at the same car, but based on credit score, based on you were a veteran, not a veteran, you're this, you're not that. Like
trade, no
it's
trade.
87. It's so hard to buy a car. That's why I asked this question one time at a conference. Forget price. How many of you would buy a Tesla? And 2/3 all raised their hand. I said, why? Because it's easy. There's that model, that model, that model, that price. That. Well, I don't want to pay that. Well, then you get that one. Yeah, but I want that feature. Then you got to buy that one.
Yeah. Right.
It's that simple.
Right.
So I think we still have this thing about price. Give them the price. If you don't give them the price, somebody else is going to give them the price. If you say, oh, I can't give you, I still say it. Oh, I'd love to give you our special price, but you got to come in. Right. Guess what you just said? They're gone. Right. And if you think that's going to hook people nowadays, wrong.
Right.
So to your point is, here's the price, plus on top.
Show you why.
But the value, because at the end of the day, I got to go through this with somebody. So goes back to what we talked about earlier. If I'm giving you information and helping you with your decision, this is scary. I'm going to come in because you're helping me. And I know it's a complete huge leap of faith for dealers to embrace that, but that's what people are looking for.
Right. Well, unless you got FU money, when was the last time that you bought something where you didn't know the price of it first? Right? I mean, it's like, so, I don't know what the big,
but people pay for experience, right?
Yeah.
There's a reason why people go to Starbucks.
Yeah.
And, if you didn't really care, you'd drink.
Still blows my mind.
You drink some other type of coffee, or you make your coffee at home and never do it. But there's people who literally go there because they've created the ambiance of that whole thing of this is going to be this. And so people pay $5 for a cup of coffee or more, or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
You raised a thought in my mind. Then it's almost like the digital world, the digital showroom should be almost like a digital showroom. In other words, the same showroom as the real walk-in showroom.
Oh, yeah.
Treat it in the same manner. So what's the ratio of people you need internally to interact with the digital response? Is there like a set number?
Well, I
to
think
handle a lead. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
So, but in the way in which he's talking about, true engagement, not just.
Well, there's two things. One is, to unpack, there's two things there. One is, I think dealers' websites need more content. Right? I should be able, if I'm standing in your dealership and ask anybody any question possible, I'm going to get an answer. But yet when I go to your website, I can't get that answer. Yeah, that's that whole key again. Oh, well, then they're going to call me. No, they're not. They're going to ignore you. Right?
I would agree with that.
Yeah. So, and as well as here's how our process is. Here's, when you finally select your car, here's the process. It's going to take us an hour and a half. And you got to bring this stuff. Or it's going to take longer. Or, hey, if you bring this, we can get you out in an hour. We now have done our process, or however it is, right?
Right.
To your point is, it all comes down to how many. But the problem is that goes back to understaffed, undertrained, and just templates. Right? So it's, again, if I just want to hire anybody to push the button to send out templates, I could send it automated, right?
Yeah. That's right.
Right. So really what we're trying to do is engage, but that takes training from people. It takes accountability from people. So, BDCs were created because this is what some people have told me. I don't know where it actually came, but they said BDCs were created because I can't get my salespeople to do what they're supposed to do. Okay. Or salespeople will tell you I'm too busy.
Yeah, that's probably pretty close.
Right. So I'm sitting there going, well, if they call. See, salespeople are pretty good when they get them on the phone because they're talking and they talk.
Right.
It's this email stuff.
Right.
Well, they're not answering. Well, you didn't ask them any questions. All you said was, hey, if you have any questions, give me a call.
Right.
Well, if I don't have any questions, why should I call you back tomorrow? Versus, hey, if I don't hear from you, I'll circle back tomorrow.
Yeah.
Hey, here's the information.
Big difference.
Right. But and so what I try to do, and I know you had Anthony on here who's phenomenal at what he does as well, is I'll guarantee you, he says, let's have that conversation. If that customer is standing here, what 10 questions would he ask? And the sales, and even BDC would be great. Put one of those in every single email you send out. Ask them a question. Don't tell them, hey, are you military? Are you this?
Well,
that?
I love that.
Because then they're like, no. Versus, hey, you may qualify for some incentives. Would you like me to look them up?
Right.
What incentives are you talking about?
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
It's got to be, yes.
There's questions. Which you want? This or this? This or this? Not just when you want to come in, because if I'm not ready to come in and I'm just want information.
Right. You're blowing a deal. You're never going to see
versus I'm nurturing somebody. Yeah. I'm the expert.
You're right, Glenn. That's spot on, man.
Well, if you think I think about it this way. I said it to a dealer, and he goes, "That finally clicked." Pre-internet, you've been around longer. Pre-internet, me too, right? You're in the car business, both of you. Pre-internet, who had all the information?
The dealer,
salesperson, or
the dealer.
So who had control? So when I have to go where? I have to come to the dealership.
Have
to talk to you.
Right.
Who's in control?
Right.
You guys.
Right.
All of a sudden, internet comes up. Now, all of a sudden, who has the information?
Yeah. Both.
The buyer.
Exactly.
No.
Who's more in control? I don't know. Little equal. Some salespeople go, oh, I lost all control. Going back to what you said.
Yeah.
I personally think we've gone one step further. There's so much information online. I think customers are more confused as ever. So if now you pivot to not selling, but if you pivot to, I know it's confusing, I'm going to help you figure it out.
Right.
I'm going to help you.
Right.
So virtually, virtually, online, whatever. I'm going to basically come sit on your couch virtually, answer any questions. What do you want? You need this, and when you're ready, come on in, right? Or I'm going to communicate with you to help figure it out. Now I'm seen as someone who's helping me, not selling me, and I'm selling through helping, right? But now I like you because everybody else, all those other guys that I submitted opportunities to at these other dealerships, all they're like, when are you coming in? Here's your car. Are you still in the market for this car? If you're not in the market, tell me because I don't want to waste my time. Right?
Right.
I mean, that's what it is. So that's where I think a dealer can really pivot to take advantage of going out and saying, I know this is crazy.
Yeah.
It is confusing. It's confusing for us.
Yeah. Well, that reminds me of the old story about the guy walks into a hardware store and says, hey, I need a power drill, right? And the clerk says, okay, man, I got just the thing, and brings out Godzilla, the power drill, the most expensive thing on the shelf where he's going to make the biggest commission, right? The guy says, let me think about it. I'll get back to you. So he goes to another hardware store, approaches the thing, and, I need a power drill. Well, let me ask you, what kind of job are you doing? Well, I'm putting up some shelves in my closet. Ends up selling them the best screwdriver in the place, right? A client is a quote-unquote person under our protection, whereas a customer is just exchanging dollars for a service or a product. And there's a big difference between those two things, man. And if we, from the point of original contact, wherever that is, because it's a little mysterious still to me, from the point of contact to the point of delivery, we have to serve that client. We have to. It's more important now than ever to overcome Tesla, or more specifically Carvana, or those, forget the name of the rest of those people, but that's so important, man. We have to reach out. We have to be different from that standpoint.
Well,
be
you
more
have
human.
to go back to, I hate to be like, the old days, but my father, I remember he used to buy cars from a certain person. And when that person changed dealerships, we drove different
A
cars.
certain person, yeah.
So think about it this way. And this is where you're right. It is competitive and we got to hold on to our people, but we don't change. At least I don't. I mean, I've moved into Lawrenceville almost 9 years ago. Mm-hmm. Found a dentist. I haven't changed dentists.
You're right.
Don't change that.
Right.
I mean, why do we let people change where they buy their car every 3 years?
Right. Yeah.
They don't change their dentist. They don't change their doctor unless you move. Then you got to, or you have a horrible bad experience. You're like, oh,
Right.
Right. But for some reason, we think it's okay that versus passing them around. If I buy from you as sales and he's service, you should be handing me to him and say, you hold on to this person until he's ready, then give him back to me.
That's right.
And that is the loop versus just one off.
Yep.
Like, I need more. I mean, well, hold on to the people you sold.
I can remember we were talking about AutoCon before the broadcast, and I don't know if you'll remember,
bring up
with Ben Stock had the lunch gig, which is that's a tough speaking gig at lunchtime, but he talked about sales staff in a service department and mentioned some numbers he were doing, and they were like, what? It's like
No, it was a great story.
Right. To go further with, so my point is that's what you're talking about. You got to let's keep them.
Well, you're passing them around. Is that you are taking care of? If we almost think about it, we get a text on our phone from your dentist that says, "Hey, it's time to schedule your dentist." You're like, "Okay."
Right.
Why are we not pitching the people to say, "Hey, it's time for service," so I don't have to think about it? Hey, your lease is up.
Right.
I'm going to put you. I got a couple things for you to look at. Oh, God, I didn't even realize it was up.
Yeah.
Why do we let people? Because we're so focused on that new and the more. That's what Ben Stock that from that lesson was when he was complaining, right, as a GSM or whatever position he was in, saying, "Where do I need more used cars?" And the guy just took his head and turned it and said, "See your service drive? Why don't you go over there?" And he's like, "Oh, what comes in there? Hondas, tons of them."
Right.
And he finally was like, "Light bulb." Go over there, pull some people out now, but also just make sure the service department is running well, because if it's easy to service my car, I don't jack the price or the perception of, I came in for oil and I walk out with a brake job. If you need the brake job, explain it, but if you could put the brake job off and just say, "Hey, next time you come in, you got to do the brake job," maybe the person will say, "No, do it now while you have it." Right. Okay. Right. But the mere fact that you told them, right. It's that retention play versus just constantly marketing for new.
Right.
And it's also the other piece is understanding, to your point, is I still think some people in the industry are so worried, and this is part, I think, from the manufacturer's perspective. You're so worried about your competitor in your brand, which is, I still think a small portion is, at least half, I'm going to say, in my opinion, half of the people basically go, I got 30 grand. Yeah. They already assume all the cars are good, safe, whatever. It's like, I got 30 grand.
Right.
I don't care what I drive. I'm looking for a sedan. I'm looking for this, whether it's Toyota, Nissan, Kia, whatever. It's like, whatever.
Right.
That's your competition. Not worried about what the other Nissan dealer is doing. I'd worry about half of the people who got 30 grand and who care less. They could drive a new, used. I could do this sedan or that sedan. I'm not. We asked, was it 2-3 years ago when we did our automotive survey, asked people, 1,000 people, 1,500 people who bought a car, maybe it was 2,000 in the last 6 months. Half of them, not brand loyal. No. A quarter of them stayed in the brand, but was, if somebody pitched me, it just happened. A quarter of them were like, nope, I'm only drive this, and that's the only thing. I'm like super, super loyal. So if you think about it, half of the people are just, like you said, I got money in my hand. I got money in my hand. I don't really care. Yeah. Who's going to take care of me and make this process easy?
Yeah.
It's interesting. I don't know of any pay plan, at least for the sales end of it, that compensates at a greater percentage a repeat client. But I bet if they did focus on something like that, you'd see that increase.
Same thing in service. Well, how does service, like retention? If you have clients that you service, you're their service advisor, what's your retention rate every year of people doing multiple secondary business? Yeah. I very rarely have ever seen that in terms of that. I mean, for us, my wife likes the service advisor that we have at our Acura dealership. Mm-hmm. She only, because he took care of her, and she calls up, Brian.
She likes the service advisor.
Well, because he takes care of her, he calls her up. So
simple,
stuff.
Man.
It is, but that's what I'm saying. To your point is, I would love to see, and then maybe they are. I don't spend a ton of time in service in terms of pay plans, but I always thought if we could figure out a retention rate by service advisor and paid them to hold on people, paid them to say, hey, you got to get Craig in here twice a year.
Yep.
For his service, because manufacturer is watching that as well, right? Well, then you got to reverse engineer how do we actually get it done.
Yeah. We do that with our trainers, so they get paid more money when they retain a new client and then keep that client.
Sure,
they get paid more money.
Sure.
So I mean, it's like duh.
Well, you always,
and then we'll do the same with the clients too.
But you'll reward behavior. It's the thing that I always say is that whatever behavior you want, you reward, but you have to make sure that behavior also pencils to your bottom line. Because people will do, you'll get money. People they'll do it. They'll work their pay plans.
Right, you bet.
That may not benefit your customers.
Correct.
Long term, may not benefit your business, but they'll work their pay plans. Correct. So you got to make sure those metrics matter, then stop changing people's pay plans. That's my other rant.
Yeah.
A lot of what we've been talking about, to me, has been on the front end of the business, the selling of the vehicle.
Sure. With
a lot of what you guys do or other marketers like you, is there a strong enough focus on the digital for the service end of it? Is that more complicated? Is it?
No. Well, some dealers, yes. We talk about it all the time with our clients. So we definitely are doing service campaigns and fixing pages on their site for service. There's a gentleman out there now, Owen Moon, who does what's it called? Fixed ops marketing. That's all he does.
Right.
And he focuses on building pages of content on your site, right? So if you think about it, what we do for our clients, if you think about it, you have a page for every single vehicle that you have on your website, right? Mm-hmm. But you don't have a page for every service that you do in the service bay. You probably have one page and shove everything on it and go, why doesn't it rank? I don't know. You don't have enough pages, right? Or you don't have videos. Here's tips, right?
Right.
So usually when we talk to new clients coming on board and we audit what they're doing, maybe service gets, if they get 10% of the previous budget, we're lucky.
Wow.
Because a lot of them will say, well, they're going to come in anyway, or we need to. Well, they do, but here's the thing. When I did the service, we did a service one. I did a service survey and asked people, why do you service at a dealership or when do you go to an independent?
Jiffy Lube,
Yeah.
Right.
Oil changes and tires are commodities. So they said wherever I can get the value.
Right.
But the funny thing is that's what most of the dealers will advertise. Now, unless you have a really great price, it's not going to sway me because a lot of it is now a lot of them have smartly moved to express even at the dealerships where, you just pull up on a rack at an oil change versus because that was the perception of it's going to take longer time. They do go to service their car for the bigger jobs. And the reason was, one, because they're trained.
Right.
Right. And that's a big thing that we talk to our clients about. Tell people these are factory trained, up to date, not someone who sort of knows how to work on all the cars. Right. And that's fine. But understand the training that they have to go through versus maybe an employee. Again, I don't know the training at Jiffy Lube, so I'm not saying anything. The second one is it retains the value of my car for trade-in. Market that as well, right? So if you're marketing that. But they don't spend a lot of money because they get the people. When are they there? They're under warranty.
Right.
So dealers, as long as it's free or they're under warranty, people go there.
Right.
But as soon as they're out of warranty, people would say, as soon as I'm out of warranty, I'm gone. Right. Why? Because the experience, and this is all from questions I ask dealers. And I asked somebody who was in service about that. And he goes, yeah, we could do a better job, but warranty work sometimes in their mind is manufacturers paying me less than, right? So if you're getting X job and it's under warranty, I get paid this. Right. But if you weren't in warranty, I could charge this. So my bays are clogged with warranty work and I'm not making a ton of money. Right. So he's even said, yeah, we had to change our attitude because I asked him, how'd your service get better? And he goes, we changed our attitudes towards the warranty customers and treated them not like, you're here for warranty work. We made it like, oh, God, yeah. And people stayed once they got out of warranty.
Yeah.
Versus they ran away because you made it miserable for them during that time.
Yeah. Well, it's so important, man. I don't think it gets talked enough about at conferences, the fixed ops part of our business. And it's so huge because, shit's going to hit the fan eventually again. And those with strong, profitable, fixed operations, parts department.
Well, because, but think about this. If you've been at conferences, right? When was the last time they brought their fixed ops managers to any of the marketing
Rarely,
conferences?
if ever.
Okay. So if dealers are only giving you 5% of the budget, fixed ops isn't brought out to the light of day. Mm-hmm. It's basically, that thing back there.
Right.
I don't even want to know what's going on back there. Just generate revenue.
Right.
And again, the dealers that do a really good job with fixed ops, higher retention, higher, stickiness, recommended, buy more cars, all of it. But to your point is, and so why is it not there is because the dealers don't want it. They want to hear about selling cars. Yeah. Right? If you ask a dealer, I play around at these conferences and I say, excuse me, what do you do to dealers?
Right.
What do you think they tell me?
Sell cars.
Yep. Never say service.
Yeah.
The good ones will go, I sell and service vehicles. But most of them go, I sell cars. So if that's what you tell me you do, then you're not, that's what you're focused on.
Well, it just self perpetuating itself where, the best salesman becomes a manager. The best, so, half the people that we promote have no business being promoted. Most of the dealers were what? Salespeople. They didn't start in fix ops and then
I met a
sales.
dealer about a month ago, and he's now the head of this group. He came up through fixed ops.
Yeah, that's unusual.
It is unusual. It was, and I said to him, that's unusual. He goes, yeah, it is unusual. Most of them go through but I don't know why.
Yeah,
but.
Well, I think the psychology too, though. Look at a dealership. All the glitz is in the showroom.
Sure. Yeah.
So just
where all the pretty cars are.
Right,
you guys in suits or whatever.
And so when I tell people about marketing, to your other question about marketing for fixed ops, I said, go look at Jiffy Lube's website because they don't do anything except sell service.
Right.
Go steal from them.
Right.
Look at their pages. They have videos about Here's the different grades of oil.
Right.
Right? Oil 101. Here's why you have to do it. They answer all the
And
questions.
they're going to bring you out of the customer lounge, and they're going to show you something on your car that needs taken care of every single time. And we don't do that. You walk into any car dealership, say, give me your last 100 customer pay ROs. I guarantee is a strong word. It's highly likely that 90% of them are one-liner customer pay repair orders. Oil change, whatever. I mean, one line, that's it. Nothing additional.
Well, I think if that's a slippery slope, because what happens is if I only came in for an oil change, I don't want to feel that pressure. That's why in that survey, people were hesitant about going to dealers to get service, because every time I went there, it was something else. Like it's always something wrong with my car. Versus, my guy for my wife, that advisor will say, next time you're going to need this. Or in 2 visits, you need this, or you need this. And then it's a decision of, do you want me to do that today while you're here, or now I'll do it next time?
Right.
Fine.
Right.
But there's no pressure of, I got it up on the rack and here's this and like that.
Right.
And again, I think more dealers do it correctly than not. I just think that the more that this concept of retention of my clients and information versus, we were talking about our conference DMSC, right? And we were saying, what's the difference than going to NADA, right? The vendors and the dealers and the attendees spend time together. And you get to know each other.
Yep.
It isn't at NADA, I see the dealer badge, I got 5 seconds and I'm never going to see you again, so here's my pitch.
Right.
Versus, let's hang out for 3 days and we get to know each other.
Right.
If you approach your service department that way versus, hey, I got to get everything because this is the only time I'm going to see you, versus, I know you're going to be here for the next 3 years. I'm going to hold on to you for 3 years. So I may not get that money today, but next time I'll get it because I told you needed it. Or maybe I will get it today, but it's their decision, right? And it's that I'm going to retain you, right? As I say, there's a reason why we go to certain restaurants, right? If I was saying, where should I eat if I'm going to stay here? You're going to go, oh, there. Probably not talking about price. You're talking about the food quality, or you're talking about the experience that you got, how they take care of you. Right. That's why you go back. Yeah. Same thing with certain hotel chains. Oh, I love it because they make me feel X. Well, why can't they talk about your dealership the same way of saying, man, they always take care of me like my wife does. I like going because this guy's name is Brian. Brian always takes care of me. Brian gets me, if I need a loaner, Brian gets me a loaner, and he gets me an SUV versus a small one, because I'll say, hey, I'm going to go do some shopping. One, they go, oh, I'll get you an SUV. Right. It's that how I make you feel. She would never go.
Right. How unusual is it? You could survey 1,000 people. How many people know their service advisor's name?
I would think probably
That's awesome.
more than you need. No,
You think?
because I think there's a lot of people that do it right, and I think there's people that. If the experience is good, people remember.
Well, you shared some really enlightening stuff to me. Having video content, on about the service, I don't see that on dealer websites.
Not many.
And just sharing information like that, and then taking care of your warranty customer like they're gold. That's a real good recipe for success.
Yeah. That's a tricky deal, because then you're involved in the technician and they
but they've got to have
pay plan's important. So it's the reason a lot of those guys leave, man.
But don't you,
it's unfortunate, but it's just a fact.
in what way?
Because they got to do the warranty work, they get paid less money.
Okay.
Because the job pays less and less in hours.
Well, but that's where, again, you have to figure out, and I get it, pay plans are a tricky thing in this business, but we were having at Paul Daly's conference up in Rochester, I was just speaking at, Adam Robinson from Hierology, and there was another, God, I'm going to go blank, she talked about pay plans and just saying you're not going to attract people to work at 100% commissions. Like, that doesn't exist anymore. Draws. People are going like, what are you talking about? People are going, what?
We know that.
That was the worst whatever 30-year period in the car business was draw versus.
But they're
draw
still,
versus
but they're
commission.
still there.
I know, man. I know.
Versus, but I see more dealers now switching
doing
to
our best.
switching to salary
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
hourly wage as a base. So one dealer, one of our clients, said he took, what did he say? It's either 5 or 7 cars, whatever it was. He says everybody always hits that.
Right.
So he figured out the commissions that he was paying out on that 5 or 7 and converted it to a weekly and just said
guaranteed.
done.
Right.
Guaranteed. No
Right.
draw, nothing.
Right.
That's just, you show up, I expect you to. That's doing nothing.
Right.
That's just existing.
Right. Showing
Then
up.
he built everything on top of that. And he said, so, you know, you got commissions for number, say, 8 through 15. When you hit 15, I actually paid you commission on the first 7.
Right.
Right. So you had some sort of incentive, and then you got both. But then he also built in a bonus or extra if the team hit. Because what was happening, he said, I've seen it for years. One is, if I only pay commission, then you're getting that car whether you like it or not because my kids need food.
That's right. I'm going to follow your ass home.
Right.
I'm going to stalk you.
Draw, he goes, I
worse.
actually had people who owed me money
Yep.
and they could never get out of the hole.
Nope.
And they were going to leave anyway, and I'm screwed. Anyway, so he said the other thing was if I only paid on an individual, then what's the incentive to help everybody else?
Yeah. None.
Because if I already hit my number,
Yeah.
whatever number's in my head that I'm gonna,
Right.
I'm good,
Right. Right. Right.
right? Then I
Yep.
coast the last 3 or 4 days. If I start out having a good month, I coast. Or I sell a couple cars. You see that. I sell a couple cars. Again, these are dealer comments. Oh, I see somebody had a good first week and they coasted. Versus saying, hey, listen, if we as a group sell 100, we all get X. Well, then I'm going to go out and maybe, so what if I get a little extra rate for the team? That's the way my wife, who was in sales, was compensated. She had her own bonus. You know, she had her salary, but if she hit her bonus, she got a bonus. If the department hit, you got a little extra. And if the company hit, so you actually helped.
Yeah. My thinking has completely changed on that over the years from the old steak and beans thing, split the sales force and, you know, whoever wins,
Right.
is going to eat steak and the other.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And it's like, okay, well, and it always made sense to me, but it was because it's like we're competitive people, that's competition. But really what that does is do nothing other than breed and facilitate backstabbing. And, you know, if you're on one team, I'm on the other, your customer comes in, it's like,
Too bad, man.
you know, I'm going to close him and he's never going to hear about it, or I'm
Yeah.
going to broom him so you don't get the deal instead of, you know,
Well, it's not good for your customers.
No, it's horrible for the customer.
So the point is anything, and I'm not saying I have the answers. I'm just saying
Well, that's
that,
a good one, though.
Well,
that's a good answer.
Well, it's that one I like, and I've seen a few other ones who are doing it as well now, going to more salaried because now I can attract people because you know. My nephew, right, Brian's son, who's 22, no, I think 22, maybe 23. What do you tell me? I get work all week and I don't get any money?
Right.
Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like,
Right,
they will look at you as if you're nuts.
Right.
So if we want to attract people to the industry, well, then we have to pay them and put them in a position to be successful. But also, it has to be reverse engineered of what's best for your customer. I mean, and again, there's some now who have total just salaried salespeople, non-commissioned salespeople. Yes, they get some bonus on it, but not every car. So this way, it's more designed to, I will put you in the vehicle that is right for you, not the one that has the spiff on it.
Right. We've seen something that I've been on for 2 years when I started. I do a lot of research and stuff, and I end up down different rabbit holes. But college graduates, you know, so I think, and everyone's probably got a little bit different take on this, but I think all things being equal, if in terms of salespeople, let's just talk about salespeople or BDC or internet people, whatever you want to call them. Given the choice between a high school graduate and a college graduate, just those two things, we're probably more likely to think that the college graduate would be a better choice, everything else being equal. Life experiences in college, the networking, the ability to be able to know technology, probably outweighs the person with just a high school degree. Broad stroke.
Right.
So all those people, forget the number, but our student loan debt's $1.3 trillion in the United States. $1.3 trillion.
Crazy.
The average is $38,000 and some change. The monthly payments are around $375 a month. 78% of these people are graduating with no promise of a job at all. All right, so they're leaving. They're upside down the minute they get their diploma.
Sure.
Big time. So why can't we as dealers, and you use that figure where the guy, he looked at, okay, what's the,
The bonus.
what's the bottom amount here?
Or
Well,
the
let's-
average of what
Right.
typically
Well, let's take
occurs.
that same figure and let's make their student loan payment for them, because it's the biggest fear these people have, is that student loan.
Well, we
student
make
loan
it,
payment.
it's funny. I was having a conversation out at dinner. I was in Texas with a client, and I was having dinner with a friend of mine down there who's in the industry as well. And he,
You guys okay on water?
yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
He was
Ernie, you
talking.
good?
I brought it out.
He was talking about that same thing, about attracting people. And he said, we made a commitment to not hire people with car experience. He said, I spend too much time breaking bad habits.
Right.
But he's trying to implement a better onboarding training system, right? Right. So like you guys, again, you bring them in and you get them trained. The problem is what happens when you leave, right?
Did you hire him dead or kill him after you got him?
Exactly. So he's saying, I need to help longer term.
Right.
Because we're sitting, he had taken me to a nice steakhouse, right? Very kind of him. But I said, look at these waiters here. I said, I came from the restaurant industry, so I know when I'm watching the floor and I know exactly what they're doing. And I said, I said, look at this waiter right here. How would he did a great job. Could talk about wine, he could talk about the food, present it. I said, why couldn't you teach him how to sell cars? He goes, I could. He goes, but he won't show up. I said, but that's the problem is that we don't have, that waiter went through training at this restaurant.
A lot.
I said, he came wherever he came from, but waiting tables at, chain Houlihan's, whatever, is not the same at working at a Prime Steakhouse or whatever that name
Correct.
was.
Right.
I said, so they went through training. And I said, and you see that person over there and you see that person over there? Guess what they are? No, but they were the managers. But where are they? They're on the floor. And what are they doing? They're helping bus tables. They're asking where things are. They're stepping in where they're needing, but they're watching the game being played to deliver experience. I said, where are your managers? Right? Just listen to the terminology. In the tower, in the box, in the back. But the game's being played out here, right? So when you think about that, I said, that's a problem. You should be able to take this person or say, hey, right? Like, why do people want to go work at Enterprise Rental Car? Because the management training is great.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
You get bumped up pretty quick, makes them like.
But they work
serious
hard. I was talking to somebody because I would rent a car at the local one, and I got to know one or two of the people there, young kids. They work all the time. They work hours.
Oh, yeah, man.
They work tons
Lots.
of hours.
Lots.
Yeah. So the whole thing of people, we can't find people who work hours. They work hours, but there's a structure. Goes back to what we were talking about. There's a training structure.
A path.
There's a path of what I can do, but also there's resources to help get them there. And
Yeah.
there's people who come in and help train. They have to go for training somewhere.
Yeah.
They're brought in.
Yeah.
But the problem is here is that I see a lot of the training, not what you guys do, is some of the dealers, they all watch tapes. Got to go watch your tapes. Whoever it is, insert trainer, Grant, whose stuff is good, right? I like Grant's stuff.
Right.
My problem is they watch it, but nobody helps them implement it.
Correct.
They just go, oh, did you watch? I watch my videos.
Yep. I'm
Got to
done.
make sure you go watch your videos.
I'm a salesperson now.
I sat in a meeting at a dealer, morning meeting. They pulled up one of Grant's. It was about objections, overcoming objections. And there was probably 15 people in there, and they're watching it. Great stuff. And then, at the end, Grant asked questions, right? So he'd pause it. One person answered for everybody. Next question, same person answered. Third one, same person answered. Great, we're done. Good, great. All went out. And I asked the dealer, I said, so what? Yeah, we do that every day. I said, so what did they learn? Well, they watched Grant. I'm like, well, how did they know? How do you know? He goes, what do you mean?
Right.
I said, you never asked anybody, how do you think we should use this? Give me an example where we could do this. Let's role play.
Right.
You didn't go out afterwards at the end of the day and go, hey, Craig, did you use anything that Grant? Oh, yeah, I used it. How'd it go?
Right. Or did you have a customer in the last 2 or 3 days that was similar to this that would have changed the outcome?
So there's was talked about it on a little video last week, this concept of installation and implementation. Those words get combined all the time or flip-flopped.
Totally different.
You know, oh, that vendor's going to install stuff, or we installed this, but they really are looking for implementation.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
And they confuse it. And I said, no, implementation is long-term. Do you have an implementation plan versus, oh, well, you know, we got this new widget and they installed it and it's not working. Well, you don't have a training plan. Now, either the vendor, that's part of their job or not, I don't know, depending on the vendor. Or you need a plan. Problem is with a lot of training out there, they just watch your videos, here's your book, and then it's a lot of meetings, which is more save a deal meetings. Right. But it's save a deal meetings, which are important, but there's not training. There's not daily training. Zero.
Right.
Zero in most of the places that I've gone to. Now, I've installed some and I've put stuff in.
Yeah. There's no practice.
I was going to say the role play. You know, go through
Right.
what you actually were taught, what you
Right.
watched on the video. Let's
Right.
rehearse
Well,
it.
how
Let's
you
practice.
started out,
It's phenomenal.
it was constant.
You know,
and
every single day.
You look at it, it's like everything goes back to sports, but it's true. These guys practice constantly.
A
Yeah,
variation of
we
the play,
don't.
a variation of the play that they started at spring training or whatever
Right.
they call it. You
Right.
know, the OTAs.
Right.
They're working on plays.
Well,
Right.
they're
fine-tuning.
I go back to the coaching thing. So again, you're
Yeah.
Cleveland
Yeah.
fan.
Yeah.
So
Don't give me that look.
listen, you have some hope for the Browns here. So you got. No, my point is
Kiss it
that
up.
if you turn, this could ruin it because you might actually want this. But anyway, I was going to say that if you turned on the TV on Sunday and no coaches were on the sidelines for your Browns, and they found them and they were at home, and you said, "What are you doing at home?" And they said, "Oh, well, they're professionals. They know what to do." You'd be screaming, "Fire that coach! He's an idiot!" Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yet, again, where are the managers during the game being played, to your point, on the sales floor?
Right.
How are we practicing?
Right.
They watch video every day, right? Let's go in and watch the tape. Well, that's your CRM.
Right.
Go open up the CRM. Go listen to, I don't want to listen to calls.
Right. Well,
Well, how are you going to get better?
right.
Right? So, and the problem is, and I'm put together a 2-day workshop that's going to be in July to hopefully solve some of this problem of a lot of people who are put in positions, you know this, who are leading teams were never taught how to lead a team.
Right, yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
spending 2 days going, okay, because I have an online course and people were saying, I need help implementing this. I
Right.
said, all right, so I got to do a live thing.
Right.
But that's the whole thing. So to your point is, if they say, oh, well, we don't have time. I'm going, we're standing here for 20 minutes.
You got time.
You could have went over to somebody
Right.
and just go, okay, sell each other the car.
Right.
It's slow.
Exactly.
It's
Right.
sell each other the car.
Right.
Object. You're the customer, you're not. Go.
Yeah.
But they don't do that because, everybody's busy. I'm going, yes, you are busy at times, but it's no different than a restaurant. Right? There's a lot of similarities in automotive and restaurants because
is.
every day's different because you have different customers. Every day, but the structure is the same underneath the
process
restaurant.
is
That
similar.
restaurant runs a certain way. There's one way to write the order up. There's one way to present. There's one way to do this, and that's the ritual. Same thing for dealerships. So when it's slow in between shifts, guess what they do? Wine tasting. Read the menu. Taste this food. Try this. Hey, we're going to polish silver. We're going to build your skill set. When it's slow, unless there's a structure in place, and that's what some of the good dealers that we all talk about, there's a bunch of them. We always go back to them and say, oh, they're great, because they do that.
Right. That's right.
But especially the ones who changed to the salary, to go back to that, what frustrated them before is, well, I wasn't paying you. Salespeople would go like, listen, I only get paid when I sell.
Right.
So leave me alone.
Right. Pretty much.
Now they're like, I'm paying you an hourly wage.
Right. Here's how we're going to do it.
You're working.
Right.
Well, now you're on the clock.
Right.
So what are you doing?
That's right.
So go learn something, go watch something, go train, go role play, go study, whatever it is.
Right.
But that has to be led by the manager,
Right.
right? To your point
Right.
of head coach right? There's a head coach, there's your dealer, but you got offensive coordinator, defense coordinator, you got tight ends, you got running backs, and guess what? They're out there doing stuff with you, going, no, come here, go over here, go over here, go over here, go over here. GSMs, desk managers, if you're not happy with your results, you got to train them. You got to fix them, and you can't fix it from behind a desk, and you can't fix it by just telling them what to do because it's not working.
Yep.
I think a lot of it, though, is it's hard to quantify the money that you spend on training, how it actually paid off. In almost any other, digital whatever, the CRMs, you can say, okay, well, this dollar was put to here, and we got this conversion, this number of leads. Training, it's
I disagree.
more nebulous.
I think you can. I disagree. Don't want to knock your camera. Not
You
Craig's,
do?
Not Craig. I disagree a little bit because if I'll go back to the money that someone spends on Anthony going into the store, there's a tangible result. I pay Anthony X, whatever he gets for his weekly or whatever the client gives him. Same thing with me, right? If I go into a store and my job is to fix X, you can measure it. So same thing for your BDC. It's, hey, my appointment ratio when I came here was at 10%. Now my appointment ratio is 30%. Now we're setting more appointments. Then they show up and they sell. Great. There's a tangible lift in this.
Measurable.
Now the key is, to your point before, is the key, if I'm a good trainer, it should stay. It may fall down a little bit, right? But it should be not go back in the toilet again, because then I didn't really teach people anything. I supported it myself through my effort, and I walk out the door and it falls down.
Right.
It should go up. I use the analogy of there's always going to be ups and downs, but think of it of bouncing a basketball on an escalator, right? Up and down, but you're going long-term up, right? So if you think of it that way. So I think if I invest in training done correctly, the problem is it's that implementation. Me buying Grant Cardone's tapes without a strategy to make sure my team is using this, then I can blame and say Grant Cardone's tapes don't work. No, Grant Cardone's tapes work because you just installed Grant Cardone's tapes. You didn't implement Grant's training.
Right.
To your point of let's role play. Let's go use it. Let's track it. Every day we talk about this, right? The OTAs. It's just that cars have a year-long season. They're always playing, right? But what are you doing when you're not in front of a customer? That's the key. Whatever you're doing, how do you get better? How do you practice your skills so that you don't screw it up in front of a customer, right? You don't practice on your customers. You practice on each other, right? I do not want to waste anything. I'm not going to put you on the phone. And it's funny, BDCs have a better structure a lot of times in terms of accountability than I see salespeople at times. Because again, what we focus on, in my experience, when I'm brought into to a dealership that's struggling, they focus on the end result, sales. Great. But what they're not focusing on is efficiency, or they're not really focused on the actions, that repeatable actions, so that we can replicate this behavior, right? You could be the 20-car guy, and you're Craig's the greatest.
Yeah.
Well, I look at you and I go, you're actually the worst salesperson because you're blowing through leads. Who are selling 13 cars are hugely efficient. You're wasting stuff.
So we need to find a way to get him to talk to more opportunities?
No, I want to find more people like him.
Okay. Yeah. And
because I can get you to 12 over time. Maybe I can get you to 15. Problem is, I keep telling you got to be 20, and you're going, there's no way I can be 20. But you already know he's faking it, and you're going, well, why should I try? I'm not going to do that. It's not in my nature to do, right? So you have to look at it and say, we have to be as efficient as possible. So I'm talking to you saying, based on the amount of opportunities you have, you should have sold 30. What are you doing only selling 20? Well, I sold 20. I'm the top salesperson. Well, then I'm taking some of those opportunities away. I'm going to give some to you. I'm going to take some away from you and hire another person who's going to sell me 12. So I'm going to sell those cars. There's always 10, 15, 20 cars that are just being missed. So to your point, I do think training is measurable and you can see it. It's just you got to do it right. You can't just install. It's like a CRM. We got a new CRM, but we didn't train anybody on it, and nobody uses it, and it's the CRM's fault. It's just a tool.
Yeah, we just changed our CRM and our applicant tracking system and everything recently, and that change is difficult. It's so painful to go through as a company, but without it, you're screwed. It's adapt or die, man.
Well, I think change, to your point, is it's in our nature. If you go through any of those DISC profile things, the biggest group is that, largest one is probably whatever DISC profile, safe and structured or whatever
Influencer.
Well, the influencer is a smaller portion. The dominator is a small portion. The calculators as well. It's that big one. So about 60% of your people, I don't care. Look, just think of your 30-something trainers.
Right.
Probably 60% of them do the same thing all the time. You could shut your eyes and count on them and go, they're dependable. They probably drive the same way to work. They drink the same thing. They're ritualized, right?
No question about it.
Now, back when you had your physical office and let's say they were in there, if you said, oh, Ernie's one of those guys. If you said, Ernie, I need you to move your desk over here. Ernie thinks, holy God, what's happening? I'm going to be fired. Why did he ask me to move my desk? Simple things like that. Change is hard. The problem also is people don't know how to change. There is a process to install change.
How so? Go further with that.
I did this talk for Paul Daly's, and I just did it again because it just dawned on me again that, just like there's a training process, I have a process of how I train people. It doesn't matter what, I can train you to do anything, but I follow these 8 steps.
Right.
People go, oh, never thought there was a process to train people. I'm like, yeah. Same thing. There's a process to train. The first thing I always ask people when they say I'm going to change, number one is, why are you changing? Why are you changing at all? Like, that's the biggest thing. People don't really think, why do I have to change? And I say there's usually 4 reasons. One is you need to, right? Right? You have to. Basically, the doctor's saying if you don't, it ain't good. There's you want to. Want to's a tricky one because want to can sometimes get wavered as soon as you get against any resistance, unless you're really motivated or the stakes are really like, it's almost I need to, but I'm wanting to. It's not outside forces.
Right.
Then it's the one that says, I don't need to change, which is good. Also coming to a realization of saying, hey, I don't need to change anything. Things are good as long as you are still doing everything 100%. Problem is sometimes when you say, I don't need to change, is you take your foot off the gas a little, and then you're not really doing what you're supposed to. And then the last one is you're just ignoring it. You're not changing. And like you said, you got to adapt or die, and they're like, la, 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 I don't need to change. Once you understand why you need to change, then you got to decide before you even change anything. My next question is, well, are you doing what you should be doing 100%? Yeah. Sometimes you don't need to change or change as much if you just did what you're supposed to be doing 100%.
Right.
Right?
Yeah,
Because you think, just to your point, as we were saying earlier, it's not the tool. It's not your process. It's nobody's doing the process. If we just did the process 100%, we probably could tweak, but we don't have to do this whole tip the table over and
man. That's right.
So once you say, no, we're doing it, we've been doing it, so use your CRM, right? Nope, we did it. We use it. It's just a technology. We need something more, so I have to, right? So then once you get to that point and you say this, then you make the decision to change. What are we changing? Then the steps are mapping it out. Map it out and lay it against your current process. Versus just going, oh man, I'm changing everything. Versus going, no, if I just map it out, I'm only have to change. We were doing A, B, C, D. Now I got to go A, B, F, D versus, oh, it's a whole new thing. Because then your team, to your point about change, don't get overwhelmed if you say, dude, we're only changing one thing here. Well, I thought we were changing everything. No, slow it down.
That's interesting,
right? So if you map it to the same thing and just say, here's the piece we're changing, even if it's a wholesale change, but then you can find commonalities. We used to do this. Here's the new thing here. Because what you're trying to do is anchor in their ritual of what they normally do. It's just going to be a little different, but they still show up. They still do this, right? So it's a little comfort. Once you map it out, then it's those 4 pillars. You document everything so everybody knows the exact same thing. Make sure the right people are doing it. Then it's training, short-term, long-term, and then accountability. Right? All that map. But once you explain to them why we're doing this, that's another thing a lot of times people
Yeah,
change?
what's
What's in it
why?
for them?
Right, exactly.
What's in it for the company?
Real important.
How is it going to make them better?
No question.
And then one of the other things earlier on in the process, I always say as well is, well, where did you get this information that you need to change, right? Meaning, why this? Why now? Why not 6 months ago? Why not 6 months in the future? A lot of times it's, where'd you get the information? Well, I went to the conference. I heard Craig speak, so I liked what he said, so I'm changing everything because I got my notepad.
Right.
Like Ernie's writing notes. He's going back. Look. And they hate when Ernie's at conferences because he comes back with his notepad and is like, change everything.
Jesus, you know Ernie.
Right? The other one is
Ernie can
sometimes
take some
20
notes.
groups. Right? We said Bob's the best dealer in the 20 group and Bob does X. Bob just got rid of his BDC, so we're getting rid of our BDC. Or Bob just expanded his BDC. We're expanding our BDC. Why? Because Bob or Mary, top dealer, they did it. Now, again, why am I changing? We had said that earlier, am I staffed correctly? Does this fit my culture? Do I need it? So once you have this roadmap to change, and then prioritizing. If you go to a conference, there's probably 3 things you want to change. Which is the one that you can change easiest, that has the biggest bang for your buck? And then you map that out. And then you just follow that same process of change. Ask yourself those questions. Why do I have to do it? Right? You want to lose weight. Listen, we can lose 10 pounds in a couple weeks, but it's coming back. But if I said, listen, by this time next year, I want to be 10 pounds down,
Right.
then I can,
Right.
what do I have to change
Right.
to win?
Yeah.
Right.
And,
So
and
same-
it's more
and you-
long term.
But you map it out and then you look at it and say, okay, what do I have to do? Well, if I just stop eating this, or I'm going to change this,
Right.
or I'm going to work out more, or I
Right.
got to do, and then you put it in a plan that you can live with,
Yeah.
that will have the impact. Because you're right, people don't like change because it's usually thrust upon them. They don't have any say in it. They
Correct.
don't even know why we're doing this.
Right.
And they're going, oh God. I mean, I had a salesperson. This will encapsulate it all. I had a salesperson when I went down to this group. I've been working with them for a while. 3rd month in, they made some changes. And finally, I pulled a bunch of them in the room. I said, guys, why are you not doing this? I feel like I'm repeating myself. And they go, oh, you're here again. And I said, yeah, I'm here. I'm here for a while. Why? Oh, well, we never really do anything for 45 days when they want us to. Why? What? That makes no sense. The dealer changes his mind every 30 days. So why should I do something and start something that I know is going to change in 30 days? And I said, okay, well, I'm going to be here for a while. So can we do this? He goes, yeah, no problem. And he did it. But that right there is everything either changes all the time, emotions, no
Wow.
sense, here's what's going on. So it's like, I'm just going to wait you out. Because what you want to do now is going to change in a couple weeks. And then all of a sudden it's going to be, this is important. You're like, all right.
That's interesting.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
But I mean, so when you have a process to implement change, it's controllable. Everybody understands it. You have a process. And a lot of times you probably don't have to change as much as you think if you just took those first couple steps of why do I have to do it? Where did I get this information from? Is it really right for me? Are we doing what we're supposed to be doing anyway before I change? You get through those first 4 steps, probably you don't have to change as
Yep.
much as you think.
That's right. You're probably right.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
You know, I've been sitting there thinking about and listening to you. I forget where we were at. Might have been at driving sales, but you were going to speak in the main room. It was a big ass room,
Okay.
and you and I forget who all was at the table. Probably you, me, Dan Moore might have been there. I don't know if your brother was there, but you're saying, you know, are you going to something along the lines of, are you going to stay and watch me speak or this and that? And would you critique me and this and that? And I said, you know, okay. So then you get up there and it was like, I said, boy, did this guy just put me together. It's like, this guy's such an accomplished speaker. You know, like, you know, Craig, you've done this for a long time. You know, give me any ideas you can. Is he gets up there and there's like 500 people in this room and it was like, I don't know if you remember that, but I think it was at a driving sales conference.
No, it might have been independent auto dealers, NIADA. Maybe it was driving sales. I don't know.
I don't know. But it was funny, man, and you just nailed it because the way you put things across are very easy to understand. Yet they're next level ideas. Is the way I would put it. Yeah, and that's so important, man. When you're talking to dealers, to be real.
I want my audience. It's funny. Somebody asked me this question. What are you? Oh, it was on Twitter. Somebody posted, "What are you afraid of as speaking?" And I said, "I'm not afraid of speaking. My fear is that I don't connect with the audience."
Yeah, right.
That's my fear, that I either talk over their head or I don't appreciate them. I mean, I've seen really good speakers miss the mark because they're not talking to the audience. I try to figure out who's my audience, who's in there, what do they need. But I've had people say that to me before about you're very easy to follow.
Yeah.
Because I want people to be able to do something with what I'm talking about.
Right.
And I don't, I see things as a puzzle, right? That's from the operation stuff. Like data doesn't, I've said this before, data doesn't mean anything to me if I can't do anything with it. Like you could go, ooh. I'm like, and? So I try when I'm speaking to think in terms of what the audience, and I just don't like talking in fancy stuff anyway, because my brain doesn't work that way. My brain works in terms of puzzles. And when I see chaos, I've always said this, I think it's from working in restaurants from when I was young.
Could be.
I was working in Perkins Pancake House when I was, 18, part through college, and the manager got fired or quit in a huff, and so I'm in there, and Brian actually worked there too. Congratulations, you're running. I'm like, what? And so, Sunday morning at Perkins Pancake House, there's 300 people whipping through there. So I'm ordering, expediting the food and cooking at the same time. So you just figure out stuff. And so I've always been able to see through when everyone's like, I'm going, there it is. We got to do this. Every job I've ended up doing, somehow I end up leading just because I can put things together and calm people down.
Yeah.
And I look at it that way as well. So I don't speak in lofty terms because I try to keep things simple for myself.
Right.
And so to your point is, I want people to just nod their head.
Right.
I want them to go, yeah, that makes complete sense to me.
Right.
Why is all the other people so confusing?
Right.
Right.
Well, that's a real thing. That's true.
Yeah, they're confusing. I can't even follow some of the people. I'm going, what?
It's a lot of the reason people don't buy is they don't get it.
Well,
Like,
the
what am I
best
buying there?
advice I ever got for speaking, but I also try to deal when I'm dealing with customers or even clients. He said as an actor, I already got past the fear of being on stage.
Yeah, I want to come back to that.
Once you're on stage, it's 8 o'clock, it's showtime. There's no going back, you know. And
how many people know that you did that? I mean, like,
I don't know.
Close friends and family.
Don't know.
Do people in the industry know this?
I don't know. I might have said that, but
we're going to talk about it.
I didn't see it anywhere.
So no,
me
but that's long. But the point was, his comment was, once you hit the stage, it's no longer about you.
Right.
Because people always worry, what am I look like? What if they don't like me? And he said, and he was telling other people, he said, it's all about you.
Right.
You're there to share something with the audience, to help them. You're trying to teach them something.
Right.
So if you're worried about you, then you're not dealing with your audience.
Yeah. Fact.
But if you're there focused on them and answering their questions, or I'm going to teach you this, you stop thinking about yourselves and you walk off and go, oh, that was pretty good. And the audience goes, oh, that's pretty good. But if you're there going, I'm going to impress people with how I speak and my language, and I'm better than you. And I've seen speakers like this. They're like, oh, and they come across very hoity-toity, and you're sitting there going, you stop listening because you're going, why? I don't get a good vibe. Versus engaging with them, really trying to worry. It's all about you. It's not about me.
Yeah. Yeah. I find speaking's interesting. One thing that I've tried to do, with very few exceptions, and it was only because the rooms were too big. Excuse me. I personally say hello and shake everyone's hand that's coming into that room.
Sure.
Because now we're friends. I'm not just talking to a bunch of people sitting in chairs, and it makes a world of difference. Even when I did with Jody Jody Stuker and who else? And Jody DeVere and Christy Roman. The women in automotive,
Right.
Those gangster friends of mine. In that room, and that was at NAD. In that room, there was, I don't know, a couple hundred people in there or whatever it was. But, man, I almost hit everybody. And it was amazing. Those are the people that end up at the end for Q&A.
Sure.
Those are the people that raise their hand.
It's a great thing. I usually try to get to the room that I'm speaking in. They always want you half an hour before, but I like being in the room for that reason because I start talking to the people as they come in. Hey, what are you here for? What's going on? And I always start selfishly a few minutes early.
Yeah.
I'm usually off the stage in the middle going, okay, hey guys, why me?
Right.
And I ask that question.
That's a good secret, speakers.
There you go, speakers.
Glenn.
I'm giving you a secret.
So
if there's
secret.
3 or 4 other concurrent, sometimes like the NADA and all these other ones, you got 4 or 5 other people, maybe more, speaking at the same time.
Right.
So I always ask the audience, why did you come to see me?
Yeah.
Craig's speaking down the hall.
Yeah, love it.
Dan Moore's down the hall. Troy's down the hall. Why me?
Right.
What do you want to get out of this?
Right.
What questions can I answer? And for me, my PowerPoint slides, I always say, are not, they're okay, but they're not tons of content that you're going, if I just write this.
Right.
I'm like, I would rather throw it away and just do Q&A.
Right.
So I say, but I always ask, I say, tell me what you're looking for, because then I can pivot or move the presentation towards what you're looking for, right? Because I just remember when you do your PowerPoint, right? I've seen you speak many times. In your room, when you're doing this, you have a vision of here's how it's going to be. Well, if I got a bunch of people who want to talk about this part of it, well, guess what?
They're gone.
We're talking, it should be, we're going to tailor it to answer your questions.
Should be.
Now, we'll talk a little bit about this, or I'll weave this
man.
into this.
Yep.
But by doing that in the beginning, you break the barrier.
Yes.
You break the barrier. They see you're normal. You're asking questions. What brings you here? What role do you have? What's one thing? And another one, if you have it, speakers, if you have the ability to get one of those big notepad things from the event, just do that. Ask questions. Say, what are 5 things that I could answer
Write
them down, and then as you're doing your presentation, go and see, we answered this, we answered this, we answered this.
Much more effective.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, it's like holding a sales meeting at a car dealership, right? Okay, well, we're not selling any cars, so it's probably because our demo rate's low. So let's practice demo, right? But it could be something else entirely. It could be.
But even if your demo rate's low, half of the people, remember, an average, half are better, and they're sitting there going, "What the hell do I got to do demos? My demos is great."
Right.
Now, unless you're saying, "Hey, Craig's demo rate is really great. Craig, what do you do to help us?"
Right.
Totally different. But if it's just going to be the same rote stuff, half of the audience is going, and the other half is going, "He ain't talking to me."
Right. Right. Yeah. And it might have been something prior to the demo that screws up the demo. So we're teaching the wrong thing. And the same thing.
Well, I call it targeted training. If you know the metrics, if you tracked your salespeople like you do your BDC, what do you track your BDC? You track your appointment ratio, show ratio, close ratio, how many emails did you do? Salespeople, do you track it? A lot of them do.
Yeah.
How many people did you talk to? How many, test drives did you do or demos did you do? How many did you present numbers to? How many did you do this? And then you can spot the weakness and ask the question, why this? Why every time you go on a demo do we not get to numbers?
Right, right.
Well, what are you saying on the demo?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? I can't fix that in the desk. I got to go with you in the car.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't go in the car busy. Well, then you're not going to fix his demos until you get in the car with him and listen and go, oh, geez, now I know why. Dude, shut up.
Yeah.
Stop talking.
Right. Interesting.
Along the lines of what we're talking about, speakers, sharing information.
Sure.
I'm curious. You and your brother had started conferences a while ago, and one of the first ones that we had gone to that I had met you was the AutoCon.
Right.
Yeah.
How did that come about? How did you? Because that takes a tremendous amount of work, and why did you do it?
Okay.
And it was, and real quick, it was an excellent event.
Thank you.
We were talking about that. It was like
it was
one of the best.
It was one of the best.
We had started. Brian, of course. Brian came up with the idea. Okay. We had seen, well, not AutoCon, but before that, Brian, when we were in the industry, this was 2009, 2010. I think I joined him officially in 2010. So 2009, had my own company. He was helping me market my consulting. I was trying to, create my own business. So he was teaching me about website and blogging and talking and all the.
Is that around the ROI bot?
No, that was separate. So this was my own little thing. And so
I still got my little robot somewhere.
You gotta have the robot.
Oh, I still have it.
That's Roy, man.
I was going to bring it, and I could not. But I know it's in my house somewhere.
We probably
It's
still
in
have
my
we probably
office.
still have a box somewhere of them.
Because I took a lot of pictures of it.
Yeah, he traveled a lot. So so when we started, that was the time when they would have the forums and you'd type and you'd talk all night.
Yeah,
and Digital Dealer was just starting, and Brian went to Digital Dealer. I went to Digital Dealer and presented as a speaker before I joined Brian, because I was teaching customer experience and process, and Brian goes, "Holy God, dealers need help with this." So, but Brian came back and said, "We could do this on a smaller level. We can do this." And so we started, and that was when I think it was either Digital Marketing Strategies and it would always be the day before Digital Dealer.
Right.
Mike was fine until it started getting big. Then Mike was not fine anymore. But then we started the pit stops.
He's fine now.
Oh, I'm sure he's very fine now. So we did the pit stops, these small ones, and then we did Automotive Marketing Boot Camp. And so we were known as being able to do it. So actually, AutoCon was, I believe, it was a collaboration with Ralph Paglia.
Right.
Who basically, it was him and I think it was, I'm going to say Sean Wolfington or someone, right? They came to us to say, we want to do this, but we don't know how to run a conference.
Right.
Will you run it?
Right.
So they worried about getting speakers and helping promote. Now, we helped promote and did a lot of the legwork and lifting because it's just in our nature to do that.
Yeah.
But because Brian and Carrie and myself had done it, and Carrie really was the one who took care of all the hotels and the food and all that legwork, they basically said, hey, you run that piece. We'll get the Brian Benstocks in the speakers, and we'll go out and push, and we'll do all that. And so that's how it happened. And then we did the second year, and it just was, again, it just got to a point where we ended up going in different directions on that, just because we got to a point where we were going, man, these conferences are taking away from our core business.
That's what I was curious
It takes
about.
so much time.
Yeah, because all of a sudden your salespeople are not selling digital stuff. They're selling tickets to a conference. Now, yes, you can make some money, but we all of a sudden said, okay, we got to scale back. So then we went to only one, which was DMSC.
Right.
We did these AECs, automotive engagement, when we were out there, same thing like mini pit stops, did that for a little bit. Right. And then Brian decided that we should have this whole attribution and analytics was really big. Let's do a conference. So now we have two big ones, and that's pretty much what we do. So we do the one in November down in Florida, Automotive Analytics and Attribution Summit, and then DMSC, Digital Marketing Strategy Conference, usually May
That just
in
ended,
Napa.
didn't it?
Yeah, in Napa. So we always do it in Napa. We'll do it again there next year. And it's fun. As I said, it's a fun weekend because it starts officially Sunday night, but people come out on Friday, people come out on Saturday.
Well, the venue is
They bring their spouses a lot. Yeah, we actually are moving to a different location next year because we sort of outgrown the hotel. But it was a Marriott, very nice. It had it was Marriott, Napa Marriott Spa. So they have a little place where a gym and a spa.
Yeah,
so
not horrible.
No, not horrible. And then what we used to do was we had a sponsor on Sunday morning people Saturday, it evolved, started with people who were in town, let's just have dinner, to, hey, there's tons of people, to a sponsor saying, hey, I want to sponsor it. Let's go have a big dinner somewhere nice. And people would buy tickets. Mm-hmm. And then Sunday morning we would have wine tour. So we get a couple of the minivan bus type things. Right. And we'd go to two wineries. And so that way dealers and vendors would meet because you're hanging out, drinking wine. And then every night, Sunday night, Monday night, we would have a winemaker come in and talk about their wine and pour it.
Right. This
year we changed it around because Brian said, there's a lot of great wineries out there. And Jason Moore, plugging your wine here. He's small. Like he doesn't have a place to go taste his wine. And there's a lot of really great wine. So Brian decided, well, why don't we have a wine tasting? So we had about, God, how many people? maybe it was 100 people, 80 people. And we had 3 winemakers come in.
Dang, that's cool.
And they taught wine. It was over lunch. So you had appetizers, then you had, a lunch. And what Brian did, which again, loved his idea, he had placemats made. And so you had 3 wine glass circles there, and you would pour 3 wines, and then you would make your notes, taste them, and then next round you ended up tasting, I think, 12 wines. You had a bucket if you wanted to dump it.
Right.
Some people just and then every table had to have one person be the captain, and then he poured 4 blind, 4 of the wines blind.
Yeah.
You didn't know which one. And then you taste and tried to guess which one it was.
Oh, that's fun.
And then whoever got the most, or maybe it was 6. Yeah, it was 6. Little tasting. Whoever between the table, whoever won the most, won an engraved ice bucket.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, and it was fun. It was great because one group was like, "Wow, we did a great job." And he's like, "You didn't get any."
Now, is this the first year then you had a church service of some sort on Sunday morning? I think, right?
Yes.
Is that the first year you guys did that?
Well, that's Brian.
Yeah.
Brian and Carrie. Brian has always been. Brian has found his faith again, as he says.
Right.
He went back. He got, just busy at work. And so actually the first one was, we did one last year. I think the very first time he did it was at, I can't remember if it was at NADA that he did it the first time. It was a Palm Sunday. And he just said, you know what, I want to just do it. And again, and there was like probably 30 people who showed up. And so at last year at DMSC, he did it again. He said, we're going to have just whatever. And I made sure from a business standpoint, I said, here's my concern.
Right.
Right. It's not a Christian conference.
Right.
So you have to make sure that if you're going to put it on a schedule, that you say optional.
Right.
Right. So
Yeah,
that way,
100%.
like our team, if they don't want to, can't be, hey, you got to be there. You don't want people to feel like, oh my God, I have to. It's just, I said, it should be, and he said, that's good feedback.
Yeah.
I said, it should be no different than someone saying, hey, anybody who likes to run, meet at 6 o'clock. We're all going to go out for a run.
Right.
Hey, those like bike rides. We have bikes here.
Right.
Same thing. Anybody who wants to come and just have a little bit. And so basically it's a half an hour of just song and thoughts and, and people talked a little bit. And so he just said it's for him, it's important to have it available if you want. Tracy used to do similar things that, same thing like at WrestleCade. We're going to go down again. My kids love that. Is Sunday morning, there's a prayer. Or you see it sometimes at the independent auto dealers. They'll have on a Sunday, it's a prayer breakfast. Whether, again, no one's forcing, but just understand if that's something you want, but you don't have to. So he's done that, and he feels it's important for himself, but also for the industry, because there's a lot of people who feel that, hey, I'd like to do something. So he did something at NADA. He'll do it again where on, I think it was Saturday night or something like that.
Right.
People have an option to go somewhere even before they go out to all their parties.
Right.
To feel that, hey, if I want to go get a little worship, it's good.
Right. Well, it's independent of if you're a believer or not. Mm-hmm. The principles that lay in the Bible are good for anybody to use in business or running their lives and so forth. I'm assuming that a lot of that comes from your mom, right?
Well, we were raised. We were raised Catholics, but we were the, basic. We came from. I would say we come from a very blue collar. My father. Went back to school. I remember when we were young, he would be going back for his college degree. He got his degree, went back to school because he knew he could earn more money. Huh. He was he worked for construction companies, but he was a civil engineer. So he went for civil engineering. So he'd be the one, he worked for a company that, where they supply concrete and asphalt, right? So they're the batch plants that make it all. So he would be the one who would make all the mixes and figure out all the, here's what you got to mix together if you want this, right? So that's what he did. But we were, 5 boys, 1 salary. As I always said, my father provided for us, always had food, roof over the head, right? But it was always, this is what I can afford. So, right, if you want sneakers, this is what you get. Well, if you want those sneakers, you got to go earn money. Same thing. I want a bike. This is your bike. I don't like that bike. Well, I want the Schwinn bike with the big banana seat. Well, then you got to earn your own money. So that's where we had allowances, but we would be the kids back then. Go rake people's leaves, go shovel snow. You prayed for snow because I could make money, right?
Right.
We did the lemonade stands. We would do
Awesome.
well, we would do fairs. We used to call them when we would do like a garage sale. My grandmother would sell stuff on, we would charge people we'd go down to the little penny store or whatever it was and get stupid little prizes. And we would charge people to shoot baskets. And then we'd go down to the furniture store that was down the highway. We were right by a highway. So we dragged those God bless my parents, dragged the big boxes. And we cut holes and stick somebody's face through, and you try to splash it with a thing, or we'd make forts, and so that's how we would make our money.
Right.
And then it was newspapers and doing
Right.
whatever we could. But
Right.
so we always went Catholic, always went until I just there was a point when you got confirmed and you said, I'm an adult now in the church. Yeah, do I have to go now? It just didn't make the hypocrisy that I saw there at that time, just for my church, was I liked one priest because he talked in a way I understood,
Right.
versus the fire and brimstone. You're going to hell. You show up late. And I was
Right.
like, dude, I ain't threatening me.
Right. And are there any 12-year-old boys in the audience?
Yeah. So Brian actually found his Christian faith. He became a born-again Christian through a teacher at school, and then he went all in. Right. And
it seems to be.
It was funny when we were younger because he would leave us passages on the Bible telling us you're going to hell because we're drinking, and we were like, oh, quiet. But he actually turned my mother. My mother was always very good, but then she embraced the Christian faith,
Right.
and ever since then,
Right.
she's
Well,
just
I can remember. Didn't she was it
Yeah.
AutoCon? It was
She
some
always
conference.
speaks. She would always
she
come.
would say the prayer before meal.
She would
or
do the
something.
prayer before the meal. She would always
Yeah.
come up and do that. Yep. And she would still do it. I mean, they're both, knock on wood, they're just getting older, but they just don't want to travel anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, she did it as of, I think, 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
She would still come and she would always, say the morning little
Yeah.
prayer
It,
for
it,
everybody.
it was just a moment, but so take it into the contents. Like maybe 60 seconds, but I introduced myself and just said, "Boy, that was beautiful, and thank you so much." And
Yeah.
she just seemed, I don't know, just something about her. There's I don't know, aura is a goofy word, but there's something about her that is just
Well, she's just
goodness,
She is. She's just she cares.
Yeah.
She cares what people think.
yeah.
Not in a negative way, but in a way that, again, it's she cares about people. So yeah, it was always that. So that's where, and then Brian, like I said, Brian's gone up and down, but Brian's back, and it's a meaningful part of his life, and I can see how it's bringing him some focus and peace. And him and Carrie are doing a lot of work now with some churches.
Good.
So
Yeah.
it's good.
So do you guys really like own an entire city in Italy, or?
That's the wrong Pasch. Brian does not own a city. No, Brian always liked genealogy,
Right.
so he went back and studied my mother's side of the family. So half of her, my grandmother's family was from Sicily. My grandfather's was from Popoli, which is a small town north of Rome, like 2 hours north, where the inventor of the Vespa came from. Popoli.
Really?
Yeah. They have a little, statue to him.
For the Vespa.
And they have
That's a big deal,
when
yeah.
Brian got married in Italy there to Carrie, that weekend happened to be the same time where they have the annual Vespa festival, and like hundreds of Vespas.
Vespas for the rest of us.
Yes, Vespas for the rest of.
Right.
So
But there is but your family was some big deal in the
no. We have a cousin who owns a little coffee shop there. No, we don't own.
But you've gone over to Italy quite a few times, right?
I've gone probably 2 or 3 times. I went for Brian's wedding, and I went previously, and my wife and I went on our honeymoon there.
I want to go there so bad. That's on the bucket list, man. I've been to so many places, and it's like, why haven't you been to Rome, Craig? I mean, it's like, God.
I would. Brian will tell you Rome's fine, but Rome's You should get into the Tuscan, into Montalcino. That's where the
real towns.
Well, it's pretty, it's beautiful. I mean, Rome is fine, but
Right.
Rome is like going to New York City, where it's a
right.
very city.
Right.
But same moment in time, you walk around and there's a Colosseum, so it is a little bit like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, right now, we're having a discussion online about vacation, taking time off as you try to do your work,
Right.
and how that's laughable almost in the auto industry.
Yeah, I'm totally against it. No one's allowed to have vacations anymore.
But I was curious, since it seems as if you are able to do that, is that something that you are able to do, where you do take time, vacation, or are you not?
If you ask my wife,
Let's get her on the phone.
get her on the phone. Actually, she's on a plane coming back from Puerto Rico.
Because it also looks like Brian does seem to do that.
Well,
so is there a
Brian-
difference?
No, yeah.
He
there's
and Carrie seem to be.
Well,
Brian don't work anymore.
Is that what it is?
Brian. Well, there's two things. Brian's in a different position than I am, meaning that his son is 22.
Yeah.
So Brian doesn't have small children, where I have a 12 and a 14-year-old. So that's a little different. But Brian also, some of those trips when he goes, I mean, Italy, when he goes to Holland, that's also tied into a lot of times he's speaking over there, because people will pay him to come over and speak.
Right.
We have some partnerships with some folks in Italy and in Holland, and we have a partnership in Mexico. People have licensed our online training, right? So a lot of these groups would be someone that goes in and does BDC training and management training, but they never had any online training for digital marketing. So they've translated it or adapted it. So we have partnerships. So Brian goes over, but Brian loves going to Italy, and he definitely has changed his mind to say, I need to, relax a little bit. But Brian just works anywhere. So, I mean, Brian never stops working. I mean, Carrie's done a really good job of shutting the computer. Like Brian, when he would be writing a book, he would come over to Thanksgiving, and as soon as he would eat, he'd open up his laptop and do work, right? So Brian can work anywhere. So that's his philosophy. And so he enjoys himself, and he stays an extra day or two. If somebody's, flew him over there, well, he might as well stay an extra day or two and do some sightseeing, but he's still working.
Right.
So for me, now that, in this phase where Denise is now heading up the agency and she's doing a really good job, I'm trying to take more time. I used to constantly be on the phone doing work, and my wife, I made a deal a few years ago of saying I'll check my emails because I get up earlier than everybody else anyway. So that's my time, and I'll catch up on work. Then at night, while everybody's getting ready for dinner or whatever, I would sit there and pop it open and do a little work, and tell people, if you really need me, call me. Right. Call me. I'll answer the phone, or if it's a text that you need me, that's fine. If you want to send me an email, I'll check it at night or in the morning. And that's much better. And we're going on vacation in a week to Puerto Rico. That's where her family's from. And I'm looking forward to it. It's the first time that I feel, okay, I can actually I have a couple things I'm working on, but the day-to-day of what's going on in sales and what's going on with this, someone else is watching that this time.
Yeah.
And so that was a little odd letting go of that.
Yes.
But it's freeing me up to actually think better, be more focused on, what projects I'm working on. I'm working on one with Brian right now for a manufacturer. I have a couple other things in the pipeline. I still have this, the book that everyone's yelling at me to write. It's there. But now I have some time, so I'm looking forward to this. So
You're working on another book?
Yeah, it's been going on for a while, but it's always, it just for a while just wasn't there. I could see it, but I was almost too close to it to know what's the point of this. Like, why am I writing? Goes to anything. Why am I doing this?
Right.
So it's going to be along the lines of this combination of installing success, right? It was going to be more training of managers, but then I was like, But I can wrap some of that in when I'm talking about, I think more people have resonated with this concept of, how do I actually do something, right? How do I actually make a change? How do I actually, for a business, how do I actually take those notes and know what to do with them? And so more along the lines, not so much of what I invest in training. I think the harder thing to tag is, why am I sending someone to the conference? What am I getting out of sending someone to a conference? Because people don't know how to take what they learned at a conference and actually go apply it. So I think that's sort of the angle of what's going to be.
Yeah. Do you know, well, you probably wouldn't know this because you haven't researched it, but there are 550,000 podcasts of one form or another.
Right.
10-minute ones or these so-called kind of the new thing is what we do, long form.
Right.
But there's 2 million books published per year.
Sure.
2 million per year.
Yep.
It's like, shit, I mean, it's like, the world's a pretty big audience, but...
Well, because the funny thing is that's also why it's a good credibility thing, meaning people still do like to read, but...
I do.
But there's more people who would rather watch podcast or, right? But the
reason I bring it, you'd be great at this.
Yeah, the problem with the podcast, if you're trying to go back and find things, unless you guys are starting to do it, which I really like, is chopping it up.
Yeah.
So that here's this sort of, as Michael Cirillo would say, here's this little nugget, right? Here's this other one. And so it's digestible. That's why I like online courses. The way we've structured our online courses is they're small little modules that are 5 to 10 minutes long. Right. You can go, I want to go learn about that.
Right.
I got to go do that versus I got to go through a 45-minute webinar. Where the hell did they say? I remember. Which is why I like books because I still highlight and right.
So we're a customer of Michael's. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's so awesome, man.
He's a great guy.
He's such a great guy.
Yeah.
I really like. It's like he's really a good guy.
Yeah, I text him sometimes when I'm listening to his podcast. I'll say, "Well, why did you let that run so long?" The other day, Michael, if you're listening, one of them, the music, the intro music kept going over for the first 5 minutes over top of them talking. You could hear them talking, but it's still. I'm going, when is this fucking music going to stop?
Yeah, I wonder why that happened.
I don't know, but he is truly, like I said, we're all very lucky. We have a bunch of core people that we all connect with, and I can't remember who. Was it Troy's podcast with you? Somebody was talking about we should just have not a mastermind because I hate that, but get about 10 or 15 people that we like in the door and 2 times a year go away for a weekend somewhere, pick a place and go and just talk about stuff.
Sure, yeah, I think Frank might have mentioned that.
Versus a mastermind sounds so official.
It does.
But we had Troy and I talked about it one time. What if we just got 10 people that we really liked?
Right.
And just said, we're going to blah, blah for the weekend. And we go and everybody pays their own way. And we go out to dinner and split it. And people play golf. They play golf. If not.
Bring guns and ammunition
whatever gets you going. Whatever gets you going. But do that.
Fun.
Since we like him, did you bring gifts?
Yeah.
So I can play a game?
Yeah. I actually have the game right up here.
Well, look at that.
It's time to play Fabulous Fibs.
Fabulous Fibs.
Did you see where Joe and Madeline won? It's called.
They've been trying to get on that radio.
Yeah, on the radio. What do they call it?
I did not see it.
Yeah, they actually won. They went down to the studio to pick up their prize and the whole thing. Maddie was just like over the moon, man.
Aww.
Yeah, I had breakfast with them yesterday, and since they moved to Delaware,
he texted me last night. Said Joe said he was feeling bad.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, that's weird. I mean, he's fine in the morning, but
food poisoning.
Right. I think Glenn put the
a
little spell on him.
Joe?
I think. Yeah. Now, I'm going to tell you, and this is no kidding. You're going to agree with this. This Joe makes these up.
Yeah.
He does these. So this is totally Joe's fault here. Okay. This is one of the hardest.
I would agree.
Out of the 12.
Great. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
Your wine's going home with me now.
Yeah. I mean, these are tough, but they're interesting. Okay, so here's the concept. So I'm going to say 3 statements, one of which is true, the other 2 are fibs.
Okay.
Okay, so one is true, the other 2 are fibs. And I'm going to go through them twice. Okay. So you need to tell us
which is true.
Which is true.
Okay.
And if you do, I got some really awesome prizes. All right, number 1, Ernie met his wife while working at a car dealership in New Jersey. Number 2, art, like art, painting, sculptures, not art, some guy named Art.
I was waiting. I was going, who else?
Yeah. Who the frick is Art? Art was once an Olympic sport. Number 3. Since 1900, there have been 8 U.S. presidents to serve one term. Let me go ahead and repeat these. Number 1, Ernie met his wife while working at a car dealership in New Jersey. Art, number 2, Art was once an Olympic sport. Number 3, since 1900, there have been 8 U.S. presidents to serve one term. Which of those 3 is true? Fabulous Fibs. Fabulous.
I think it's the presidents.
Close.
There's actually been 6. But that would make sense. I don't know. He didn't write down who the 6 were.
Well, Kennedy was one.
Right. Yeah,
Bush,
for sure.
Bush was one. Carter was one. Johnson really was 1.5 because he was in it, but he only served one that he was elected.
Wonder how that counts. He's probably just once, because he was elected once, right?
He was elected once.
Right.
Eisenhower, I think. I think Truman was Truman.
I was going to say Truman was just once.
Because you only ran once, right?
I think so. Who was after Truman? Eisenhower?
Yeah.
Right? Might have been. And then Roosevelt was president for like 30 years.
He was 16, I think. 4 terms.
Yeah, that was crazy.
So, all right, which one's true?
Art was once an Olympic sport.
I thought about just way back in Greek times. I was going, they really liked art.
Yeah, well, listen, this is interesting.
It is.
Medals were awarded for works of art inspired by sport, divided into 5 categories: architecture, literature, music, painting, and sculpture. The juried art competitions were abandoned in 1954. Listen to this, because artists were considered to be professionals, while Olympic athletes were required to be amateurs. Right?
That's
and
funny.
what do we got?
The opposite.
Now the whole, I mean, it's like so far. I mean, it's like all these guys are pros, like in almost every country. And Ernie did not meet his wife at a dealership in New Jersey. You guys actually met at the mall, didn't you?
Yeah, retail. I worked for the Gap back in a long time ago.
Right.
This is going to be our 30th wedding anniversary coming up in October.
Actually, Ernie really stalks malls.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what he used to do a long time ago. But
I worked for the Gap.
It's
She worked
gonna
for
be-
the Limited. They were catty cornered each other, and
Yeah.
she eyed me up.
Oh yeah,
I
okay.
like that.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Ask
Yeah.
her.
She eyed you.
Stalked me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's bullshit.
Ask her.
You
Truth
were
or-
where were you? You were at the Gap.
I worked for the Gap.
That totally makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
You working at the Gap totally makes so much sense.
That's what
All
brought me
right,
down to
so
Jersey.
no one goes away empty-handed.
Yeah.
That's why you get a bonus question.
Okay. You can
And
screw
this is
this one
based-
up, too.
This is based on a question I asked you the other day via direct message. Who started at catcher for the Yankees the day after Thurman Munson's fatal plane crash? And this is really, I don't know. Whoever knows the answer to this question is like,
Rick Cerrone.
no.
You're going
But that's
away
a good name,
empty-handed.
though. Let's see. Yankee popped into my head. Rick Cerrone.
I was like a catcher. Yeah, okay.
A guy by the name of Brad Goulden. Now, if you look this guy up, he sells cars for a living today.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
That is so weird. But a guy by the name of Brad Goulden. And I remember because Munson was from Canton.
Yeah.
And that's where the crash at
Yeah.
the Canton airport, that's where it happened. And I happened to be there for some reason, not the airport, but in Canton when that happened. And wow, man, the whole city was like destroyed. He was so beloved in Ohio and,
God.
and in New York. man.
He was my favorite. I mean, that whole era was so great.
Sure was,
So
man.
that was great.
They were
Could you
tough to beat.
imagine how he must have felt? being in that game, replacing Thurman Munson?
Oh, yeah.
He
Well,
was just-
if you read about him, it was between him, I forget the other guy's name, but it's kind of interesting.
Rick
If you
Cerrone.
Google the guy, yeah, Rick Cerrone was the other guy's name
Yeah.
for sure. We'll go with that.
We'll go with that.
Right. All right. So for answering both questions, even though
you
you're
screwed it
wrong,
all up,
yeah, being
I know.
our worst player.
So you're really into superheroes, right?
I do
Marvel.
like I do.
Marvel.
All right. Right.
Right?
DC.
I thought they were Marvel.
Oh yeah, well I'm into all of them, but
Oh,
you know,
okay.
if people go, are you DC or Marvel? Growing up, it was Batman was my.
Okay.
When they need your help, you now have a way to really
Yes.
really kick their ass. These are balloons and a
yes.
gun,
I love that.
all kinds of good stuff there.
Oh, my kids are gonna have a great time. I'm gonna bomb them with that.
But wait, that's not all. Then some real superheroes,
Yes.
PJ Masks fellas, and there's puzzle in here,
I like puzzles.
right?
There you go.
Did I see a picture on your timeline of some gigantic puzzle?
Yeah, my son just finished it.
Was that
1,000 pieces. He's done.
is that a lot? Or
That's a,
yeah, that's a lot,
a
right?
lot.
1,000. He's done 2,000. He loves Legos.
Really?
Yeah, he's done the Lego ones where it's the like the Death Star that has
The prices are still on here.
all right, the Death Star that has 5,000 pieces or whatever. I mean, he just loves doing like. Thank you, I love that.
You're
He
welcome.
does. He loves his puzzles. So yeah, he wants the one, but we're going no. There's the one that's what is it 40,000 pieces?
gosh.
That real
Oh,
big one. Have you
dude.
ever seen it?
No.
It's full size Disney puzzles, but there's 12 of them all together, and literally could take you. They had teams of people doing it to get done. And he's like, I want that. We're like, no,
No.
it's the whole floor. Get that.
Right. Yeah.
But he'll sit there and do it. He just likes he sees.
Which one is this?
The
Older
youngest
or
one.
Youngest one.
Yeah, he just sees the pieces. He'll just go, oh, there it is, boom, and like, but yeah, he did it over the course of a couple days. It was one of the Superman. They have the Superman Batman where they have all the old comics.
Yeah.
On the puzzle. And
That's cool.
Yeah,
That would look
He's like,
cool.
do you have some of these? Because I have some
Right.
comics.
Yeah.
I have actually a lot. If you talk to my wife,
Yeah.
you have the first Superman. I said, no, that's worth millions of dollars. No, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't that guy from Cleveland? I think the guy that came up with Superman was from Cleveland, Ohio.
Could have been.
Yeah. Shoot. What's his name? Let's Google that. But let's talk about. I want to talk about. I think the audience would be interested in knowing about your acting career because that blew my mind when we talked outside for a minute.
My
We're like,
my
wow,
acting
man.
career.
Oh,
I always growing up, always loved TV. I mean, you didn't really get to see shows, live shows. I think we went, there was some regional thing. Godspell came in, to a local theater. I think we went at school, but I always loved TV and just fascinated with it, but I never thought I could do anything. But then during high school, I was like, I'm going to take an acting class. And my father said, no, you're not. So I ended up taking shop. And so at least I can build some things. But when I went to college, I said, I can take an elective. I just did it. I just signed up and said, go do it. And it was, took an acting class and I liked it. And it's an interesting thing because by nature, I am not really the most outgoing person. I'm more introverted. I know some people are going to go, what? But it's just odd. So I liked it. And then I was thinking, well, how am I going to get? Because there was at Rutgers, there was Mason Gross School of,
Rutgers.
and so you could go for the acting program or you just took classes. So of course, all the people in the acting program are all snooty, like we're going to be professionals, and I'm going, I don't know, I just like it. So I ended up meeting a girl who randomly, like one of those random things. A friend of mine, best friend of high school's family had a house up in in the Catskills. Yeah. No, upstate New York, north of Poughkeepsie, up in that area there. We happened to go down to Poughkeepsie to hear a band. So we're at a bar, band, meet this girl, next thing you know, she gives me her number. I call her up and we start dating. She's older. She lives in New York City. She's an actress. I'm like, ooh. So I go in, meet, see her shows, and I met the director. And then I was still, after college, I was working at home, working that summer going, what am I going to do? And I want to be an actor. How do I get into the city? They were casting a role in a Shakespeare play. I went and I auditioned. I got it. So I would commute back and forth. Right. And then finally I moved in to the city, had a roommate in Brooklyn. That was my first in Brooklyn in Carroll Gardens. And then just stayed with that acting company and then started working in restaurants, as you do, and never moved back home, just stayed there for 12 years. And, so I just would do some extra work on movies, stand-in work. I was, who was it? John Turturro's stand-in for a couple, a movie.
No kidding.
So you just stand there and, and then there was the other guy. Who was the guy who did,
so
who was
weird.
Arliss? Well, remember that guy, the actor for Arliss?
Yeah.
He's a funny guy. But he was
in Entourage.
But he was directing a movie, but he was also starring in it. So I was the stand-in. So I'd have to do the lines and stuff like that. So that's the way you paid your bills, or extra work. You can see me if you know where to look, you're like, oh, there I am. Like in Carlito's Way, Al Pacino, there's the shootout in Grand Central Station. And all of a sudden you can see me coming down the escalator. If you know exactly where to look, you're like, there he is, but you got paid $100, $150. And you're like, that's great
cool.
money. And then I went to London for a year, or part of a year, with a theater company. And so I would, do plays. I did a play, and that I think is the best training for speaking, because no matter what happens, it's 8 o'clock you go. And so people always go, aren't you worried if your PowerPoint blows up? I'm like, I would play opposite a guy who was drunk in the first act, and he's doing lines from the third act, and I'm going, oh, this is great, right? I'm like, when you can figure that out and make it through and everyone still applauds, you're like, hey, who cares if that blows up?
PowerPoint's a problem.
But then I just got to...
When, Jerry Siegel,
Yes.
Superman,
Yep.
Cleveland, Ohio.
There you go.
All right, so...
And so then I did that for 9 years. Yeah, didn't really make any real money. And as I said to Craig, I got to a point in my life where I said, I had friends who had agents, right? So I had I freelance, which basically means if they found you something, but nobody was really working for my career.
Jeremy Piven.
No, it wasn't him. It was the guy who actually, not Arliss. It was, I've never,
Okay.
different guy.
Okay.
So, but so basically I got to a point of saying,
Keep going.
I have friends. Yeah, I have friends who are in the game, so to speak. They're in the arena, and they're not getting wrong. I'm on the road to the arena, and I finally said, you know what? And I saw some people working in restaurants who were 45 years old, and I was, like 30, 31, and I saw people 45 years old who were still trying to do it, and I just got to a point of going, I can't do it. I got to figure it out. So I just said, I did it, gave it my all, no regrets, never look back. People go, do you miss it? Well, yeah. I actually like the rehearsals more than doing a play. I liked being in a theater company that you did plays for short periods of time. The whole thought of doing the same play for a year, I think I banged my head against the floor.
Right, learning a new script, learning new
I
character.
like the process. I definitely like to perform, but I also like the rehearsal process and building the characters, and and I think ultimately one of my directors said you'd probably make a better director than an actor.
I was going to ask you, could you be a writer? Could you create the content?
No, I'm not that good at writing. My writing is, as some of my team who edits my content will say, you write like you speak, and that's not necessarily the written word is written to be read.
I guess the creative is more.
I don't. My brain doesn't think that way. Okay. I think I would be better at helping put the production together or that type of stuff. So, but no, I think it serves me well speaking. I get my, that little energy high off of that from helping teach and speak that way. So.
And I know, like Craig touched on it with your family, with 5 brothers or 4 brothers. It was funny that you mentioned the performing, or you had we used to do circuses.
Right.
My sister and friends in the neighborhood and we'd perform, and we didn't do it for money, but we'd bring, people in the neighborhood,
Sure.
moms and dads. We'd sell tickets, quote unquote, sell, but they'd come and watch us do the goofy stuff. We had a lion act. We had, like you said,
Listen, you
that's
got
just funny how creative though. Like, and there was something to that versus now the video games where I think it takes a lot of talent for these kids to play these video games,
Sure.
but you're not getting that self-development, I don't know, in the same way.
Maybe I think you just had. I think if we had video games back then,
we would have done them.
We would have played video games
for sure.
I just think it's your own way. I think a lot of these games now, why they're so kids love them, is you do get to create. So my son likes to play Fortnite. But you create your characters and you create strategies, and so you do a lot more than just I'm going to blow things up.
And that's a good point. I don't play those games, so I didn't realize that you could create like that. But also, they're playing online with their friends across town, across states, across countries. So that's kind of interesting as well now.
Well, they socialize more. I mean, if you think about it, when we were growing up, when your kids went home. Right? Your friends went home. You didn't see them till the next day, and you probably weren't on the phone talking to them, or your father was yelling, "Get off that phone! Don't tie up my phone." So nowadays, kids are talking to each other and socializing more. I think they probably are socializing with their friends more than we did because we saw them in school. And then maybe we hung out with them after, but now I can talk to any of them, and especially if they live far away where I can't just run over and go see them. But yeah, I can see how you just made your own fun. You had to because there was not much you could do.
Limited.
Yeah, you were limited, or you were limited as far as you could ride your bike. Or your parents would let you ride your bike. You were limited by the money you had, less choice of going around and seeing things, I mean, I worry about that sometimes with my sons about get outside and do some stuff, but they get out enough.
Makes sense. So, and also, I guess, with the way they are growing up with the digital and communicating digitally, it adds even more credence to what you were saying about the virtual showroom, the digital showroom. And I think how that has to be looked at differently, the correspondence, the interaction with that guest as being as if they were in front of you right there at the store. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, they're at a point, if you think about it, you are now running into whatever they're calling this next generation, Z or whatever. They've never grown up without, well, not even the internet. They've not grown up without the smartphone, right? So if you think about it, the smartphone's been now for 10 years, right? So my son, the youngest one, always sees a phone. Now he's 12. He finally got a phone, but my older one, 14, he got his phone at 12. But their consciousness of really when they're 7, 8, 9, there was always mobile phones around. And and so this concept of internet, I can get anything I want quickly. I can find any question I want. I just talk into my phone. They're expecting answers. They're expecting help. They're going to look at you incredibly strange if you don't answer their question, And I think adults are the same way now. Everybody keeps folks. I think it's a real big mistake where everybody just constantly is trying to figure out how do we market to this group. The problem is in that group, there's two sets. There's motivated people and unmotivated people, and I don't care what age it is. I heard a speaker, a millennial. He would talk. He's like, I'm a millennial speaker, and he was phenomenal. But what he said was, I hate being called a millennial because everybody talks with millennials. When you think a millennial, what do you think?
Right.
Negative.
Lazy, basement of the parents.
And he's going, I run a company.
Right.
I'm being paid to speak.
Well,
I'm not the lazy millennial. And he goes, and I hate being labeled a millennial because everybody thinks that. But
son Joe is in that age. He's at the very top of the age, wherever the cutoff is. But he's like, I'm not a millennial.
So he says, and I look at it and I say, there's people of my age or growing up who, didn't do what they're supposed to do, or
Well, that's
call
right.
them, unsuccessful.
Right. Nothing's really changed.
It's just
social media has changed a lot of things.
Well,
but
the way they communicate is different. That's all. But
Right.
you could say that from the time when all of a sudden the phone was more accessible to everybody, and
Right.
radio became more, and TV, right?
Oh, dude, when I was 19 years old, my hair's down on my shoulder and I'm smoking weed all day. It's like, I was pretty useless. So I mean, it's the same people.
They look at you and they'd say, all those long-haired kids, and you're going,
Right.
whatever. I just look at it and say that you have to understand that everybody, it's not just kids, you want answers. You want speed. And I keep saying the dealers who are going to win in the next few years is the ones that focus on how can I save my customers time. Mm-hmm. That's it. Mm-hmm. Nothing big.
Right.
And the way you save time is allow them to do as much as they want. This whole concept of people buying cars online, I think it's still a small minority. Will it grow? Yeah. Is it going to dominate the market? No. Because people still like the test drive. As I always say, people love shopping for cars. Love it. Ooh, what's this button do? Let's go for a test. People hate buying a car because it takes forever.
Right. They just want to do it in a shorter amount of time.
So now allow them to do as much as they can,
Right.
help them,
Right.
and then transition them through, pick up where they left off.
Right,
Don't
yeah.
go backwards just
Right.
because, I have to do my discovery questions and I got to fill out my form.
Right.
It's like, dude, then why did I waste an hour on
Right,
your website
right,
doing this?
right.
You got the information.
Right.
How many times do people ask? I read them all the time. You do probably too. I do CRM audits for clients. Every time I open it up, Anthony probably will go amen, is that someone will say, how much is this? Do you have this in? When do you want to come in? No. Does this have this? When do you want to come in?
Right.
I can't tell you. Like it's still.
Oh, it makes me nuts.
Well, but that's the problem's going to be everybody's attention span. If you cannot get me the answer that I want,
Right,
I'm
next.
going to someone else.
Yeah. Well, that's people are concerned more in the industry than I'm finding out that the general public really you say Carvana and they go, what the hell is that? Is that like a Nirvana song or what? I don't get it. But we talk about it a lot. All we have to do if we're ever in competition with them is go one step outside our comfort zone and let's go deliver the car to them. Why do we make people come in?
But my point is, even with Carvana, everybody's talking about Carvana. Great. What's the difference, right? Right here, where you are here, you own a dealership, call it whatever you want, brand you have. What's the difference between Carvana and you opening up a new independent lot with 300 cars on the ground a mile away? Nothing.
Yeah, really nothing.
The problem is that their marketing, where they're smart, it's what I think Frank was saying the other day. They're playing against all the prejudices that having car dealerships.
Right.
It takes too long.
Right.
No problem. We'll deliver it to you. Oh, they're going to no. You want to trade in your car? We'll pay you what we say. We'll bring you a check. We'll take your car. And everyone's like, oh. Now you listen to people who've bought. I talked to someone at Paul Daly's conference who bought a car from Carvana.
Yep.
I said, how was it? He says it was okay. He goes, they didn't have a couple of the features that I had wanted or they told me, but it's all right. So again, you settled a little bit. So if you want to settle,
Because
that's
of time.
okay. So that's your choice. Is all right. It didn't have this, but it was easier to get it, so I'm cool.
Right.
And so that's now where Carvana may struggle is because some people are talking about it is where are they going to get the inventory to if all of a sudden the demand comes.
Right.
But listen, it's more you should say how did it happen, right? And then more importantly, what are they doing that's exciting people and can we do it ourselves?
Right.
That's it.
Right.
Don't worry about them. They're going to be there until
Right.
they go out of business.
Right.
But if it's not Carvana, it's going to be something else
Right,
that you
exactly.
want to point fingers and blame and say, oh, it's the market. No, you're focused on the wrong thing.
Right.
Listen, as we say, there's car dealers that are selling a boatload of cars because they got it buttoned down. They're locked up on processes. They have accountability and they're doing it. And there's always going to be people that do well. And are there people who are going to, I can't remember, one of you guys said it, whenever it gets tight, efficiency wins.
Yeah.
Efficiency wins because I can't just spend for the sake of spending. I can't just waste opportunities for the sake of it.
Yeah.
I can do that when it's cheap or when it's good. But when all of a sudden things get tight, you got to play to your strengths, which means every opportunity is so super valuable. I got to take, and I got to win on repeat business, and I got to win on my service business. I got to win all those places.
Across the
when
board.
it's just overflowing, I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about that. Oh yeah, we can't do that. We can't get to them, and that's all right. But we're still selling our 200 cars.
Yeah.
Until all of a sudden it dries up with, your poor processes and poor execution. Guess what? Those 200 are going to be 100 really quickly.
Right. We've gotten stuck into that mode over the 21 years. We've kind of weaved in and out of that. Like, we're doing pretty well, and let's not, and we wouldn't change anything. And then it was like, oops, we're not ahead of everybody else now.
But see, that's my point is going back to when we had the conversation about change. That's the third one. That third one of I don't have to change.
Right.
And that's okay if you're maximizing everything else.
Right.
Because what happens is I always say you're either moving forward or you're moving backwards. You're not, and if you're standing still, someone's coming up on you. So you're really moving backwards, right?
Definitely.
So you're moving backwards.
Definitely.
You may not feel like it, and so you're going,
Right.
hey,
You
everything's
don't-
good.
That's the trick. You don't
course.
feel like it.
But if you're really thinking every day, so as I said with this, if you were doing 50 and you moved up to 75 and now you're like, that's great, right? So it was CBT interviewed me the other day about the article I wrote called The Comfort Trap of Success.
Name dropper.
I know, I like that. Well, Jim helps me, so I got a name drop for him. So he,
They're great.
they are great.
Right.
He's a great guy. He just calls me up. All of a sudden somebody sends me an email. Hey, we read your blog, The Comfort Trap of Success. Can we interview you about it? I'm like, yeah, sure.
Awesome.
So we jump on. So the point is that, and you've just what you just said, we were doing really good. So you went from 50 to 75 and all of a sudden that's your new normal. So 75 is always great. But guess what happens is all your bad habits that had at 50 start creeping in at 75.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you're at 75 or you're at 70, but you're here, but you're not moving forward to 100 because you forgot what you did to go from 50 to 75. So now if you just say, listen, I can be at 75, but what am I constantly doing to maintain that? And maybe I get to 76, 77, right? And then what do I do? And that's where that accountability comes. We just still come in and we do the same thing, but we just do it excellent every day.
Yeah.
And, that was when I was in the restaurant industry pre-social media, way, way back in New York City. That's what the guy said to me. He was one of my first mentors. He said, he goes, I think it was the shelf life of a new restaurant in New York City at that time, probably around the same time now, is 6 months.
Yeah.
He had 2 restaurants for 13 years because he said his focus was every day we have to deliver excellent experience. He goes, the steak's a commodity. You can get a steak as fancy as you want to have it. He goes, you can get a good steak a bazillion places in New York City.
Fact.
So he says, we have to deliver a great experience. He goes, but here's the key. If I deliver a great experience for Craig, he goes and tells Ernie, come on, take the wives, we're going out. If I deliver a crappy experience to Ernie, not only does he hate it, you hate me even more because your reputation in his eyes, he's like, don't listen to Craig about going for food.
Right. No kidding. That's
So
right.
his focus all the time, every single day was we follow our process, we follow this. Do you have off days? Absolutely. But his goal was so I learned that same thing. Every day you come in and you do the best that you can every day. And as long as you do that, you don't go backwards. You don't stop. You won't get comfortable.
Right. Man, that's great.
It's not
advice.
stressing yourself out like, the world's going to fall. It's just every day. It's how you practice. You practice how you play. And if you commit every day to, I do this stuff, you won't go backwards. Yeah. Now, you may stay at 75, but you're at a fine-tuned 75. And then you say, hey, I want to get to 100. Okay, what do we have to do differently or more of or what to get to 100? And you start building that plan. But you don't take your foot off the gas because no change, right? Going back to change doesn't go up like this and it doesn't go down like that. It's subtle. and you go from 75 to 74, 73, and guess what? You start blaming the industry and you start blaming the competitor. That son of a gun down the block, and it's all. And next thing you know, you're at 60. Instead of the fact that actually you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing because you're looking out the window blaming. Next thing you know, you're at 50. You're at 40, and you're going, "What happened?"
Right. It's someone else's fault. It's political or it's whatever.
It's easy to blame outside. It's easy to blame everybody. It's looking at yourself. But that's what I'm saying is that you take it for granted, right? When I ran, restaurants and any of that stuff and any job I've been in, the problem is with a lot of dealerships or management in any business is that you say, Craig's the manager. Right? Craig's the manager. He's the GM. Craig leaves, no GM. No. There's the GM duties. Craig just happens to do them pretty much every day but when he's not here, who steps in to do the GM duties? A lot of times doesn't happen. Well, Craig's not here, he's the only one. Versus you step in, he leaves at 5 o'clock, you pick up his sheet, here's the duties, and you finish the general manager's duties till 9 o'clock and you close.
Yeah.
Right? So now it's not a person, it's a role, it's duties. Now on your list, Craig, every single day, you ask Ernie, did you do X?
Yep.
Ernie's been working with me for a year, man. Why do I have to keep asking him?
Right.
Because that's your job.
Right.
Because as soon as you stop asking him that,
It
3
goes
weeks
away.
later, he's like, oh, it's not that important anymore. And then he starts gambling to, do I do it or not?
Right. We get what we focus on. There's no question about that, man.
But that's what I'm saying. So if I just ritualize and follow, right?
Exactly.
We had a dealer who came to DMSC. I thought it was brilliant. He's in Canada, right over Detroit. He's in that area. He went to his local McDonald's and asked if he could just hang out for an afternoon to just see what's going on. And they said, sure. And he said, you should see all the organization, everything. He says, there's books and there's logs, and the manager has to fill in a log, and the area person comes in and opens up the book. And if you were there for 25 days and there's 23 forms filled out, you get your ass reamed. But he said, everything is so organized and so detailed to the point. He says, that's why you can hire the people. He goes, that's why you put them in place. He goes, there's nothing left to chance. This is what works. Here's the process. And then it's easier to hire people. I mean, think of it this way.
Yeah.
It's easier if I come to you and I say, hey, I need a GM. Well, tell me what they do. No, I just need a GM. No, I need to know. Or I need salespeople. Tell me what they do. No, I just need salespeople. Well, no. Are they setting the appointments, or is the BDC setting appointment? Are they making phone calls? I need to understand that so I can go to the person and go,
Correct.
this is what you do. And they go, I can't do that. Okay, then you can't work here. Versus, I don't really care. Just come in. Oh, I heard you sold 20 cars. Come on in. Right? And that's, again, I'm being extreme because a lot, but.
No, that's real world.
No, but there's a lot where the more it goes back to that process, the more that you have it written out, you can just go, this is how we run it.
Yeah.
Versus ceding power
Yeah.
to whoever comes in and starts running. I mean,
It's so seldom, man. It's unfortunate, but it's so seldom that dealers do that. It just doesn't happen enough.
Well, I've seen it happen when the dealers who are in the store all the time, more often, because they're there and they're going, this is mine.
Right.
Right. And so the general manager, you work for me.
Right.
I've seen others who want to be out of the dealership a little more. So the general manager's viewpoint of running things, it's like, okay, as long as it's working, it's working.
Right.
But what happens when that general manager leaves?
Yeah. Well,
And somebody comes in, it's, well, now this is where I think you also have turnover in staff is, I was working for you and it was this way, and now you leave and you come in and you're completely different going, what?
Yeah, right.
You're like, this is my way. And you're going, yeah, I'm leaving.
right.
I'm leaving. Versus if you came in to run the McDonald's or you came in to run the McDonald's, you run it
Here's the
McDonald's
way.
way.
Here's
McDonald's
the
way.
here's the process.
Now, your personality is going to be different. How you engage with your team is different. Maybe you're a little more firm. Maybe you're a little more whatever. Okay, but that's style over process. Process is still the same. You still open up the same way. You still do stuff the same way. You might sing a song. You're just,
Right.
okay. That's people.
Yeah.
I think more dealerships and businesses that could be more organized in that way, it just allows them to be more successful because then you can spot where things are wrong.
Right. Well, it's the old thing. Managers manage processes, not people, really. You develop people.
Well, if you think about it, going back to your sports analogy, if you think of one of your favorite coaches from school, right? Where were they at practice? Right on the field next to you. Where were they during the game? Right there watching you.
Generally right in my face.
Exactly. Going like, where are you supposed to be? But same thing. General manager's up in the box. So same thing. If dealerships thought more along calling them coaches, you are the sales coach, right? You're the BDC coach. You're coaching them to success. You're responsible to build a team. That goes back to why I did the workshop I'm doing the workshop is a lot of the people don't think that way or were taught how to coach.
That's a very interesting thing you just said. I wonder if anybody actually does that because that just makes too much sense. Coach.
Well, I see some. I see
really
some.
Does,
no, I see a lot of them coaching, but again, it's day to day.
Let's give them the title. Just the title
versus
might change things other than manager. That's interesting. New car coach, new car sales coach. That's interesting to me.
It's just if you look at it as a team and you're held accountable to a team. Again, certain sports teams will say, well, he was a strict disciplinarian. Okay, but there was processes written out that you say you're not doing.
Right.
There hasn't been any successful team that didn't have a structure. If every single time you're changing, now, why are some teams unsuccessful? Because every year they're changing a coach or a new scheme. When you hear this quarterback had 4 offensive coordinators in the last 4 years.
So you're going to go ahead and talk about my Cleveland Browns.
No, I try not to.
All right.
Listen, I like the Giants, and we have nothing. We're just even worse.
Yeah.
So the point is that when you think of it, is when you have that structure and you coach to that structure, you're putting yourself in a better position to achieve the results you want. You can be a player's coach. You can be a strict disciplinarian. But at the end of the day, when this play is called, you run this way, you run that way. There's no debate like, I'm going to do what I want. It's not. So I think more along the lines of coaching them and really being there to help them get better and improve their performance. That's what you're trying to accomplish, or that's what you should be trying to do. And it's not easy. Listen, I've run businesses. I run these businesses. I'm not always the best. I forget to coach. I forget to do what I stand up on stage and go, listen, everything I'm going to tell you, I'm 100% guilty of all of it.
Yep.
Right? It sounds good, but I'm sure there's people on my team who present or past who are like, yeah, I wish you did that for me.
Right. Yeah. That sucks. You're so spot on. That sucks because we all know the right thing to do every single day in our businesses. Mm-hmm. Nobody knows our businesses like we know our businesses. Yet we not constantly, but we do exactly what we know we shouldn't do. Well, often it's like,
well, I tell people when they say, oh, you get this, you probably get this too. When you go in and you start talking to hiring or staff, whatever, and the managers, they're like, I say this all the time.
Right.
And I'm like, well, they stopped listening to you. It's whatever. It's just I said, you could come to my business, spend a week, give me a list of stuff, and say, why is that there? And I'm like, oh shoot, why did I do that?
Yeah.
I said, it's no different. It's human nature. It's very hard to constantly see everything as it really is and not miss it. Right? It is just taking it for granted because something else becomes a priority. So we have to drink our own Kool-Aid, so to speak. My wife, whenever I come back and get frustrated at work, sometimes, this is where you'll just go like, oh, I married a good one. But she'll turn to me and she'll go, hey, so you problems at work? Yeah, these people. Why don't you watch one of your own seminars? I was like, son of a... maybe I should. And she's like, physician, heal thyself,
Right.
But she's right.
Right.
If,
honey, go make me a sandwich.
Oh, no.
That ain't going to work? No.
So but I think that is the hardest thing for all of us is just to remember to execute on what got us here.
Yeah.
that's going to keep us moving in the right direction. It's when all of us start thinking something else is more important, some new thing is going to save us, and we forget the basic blocking and tackling that got us here. Eventually, there's going to be a disconnect. You're going to stop. It's what you said earlier. Everybody wants to please the boss. So whatever the boss, it's no different than when we were little kids, right? Kids will do whatever is going to make you daddy or mommy smile.
Yep.
Or just get your attention. So same thing. No different when they're adults. We haven't, haven't changed that much, is that the boss now is the parental figure who signs the paycheck. So I want to keep you happy. So, oh, you like that? Look what I did. And you're like, yeah, but you didn't do that. Yeah, but this is important to you. So it's how do you keep everything being important? Meaning all of the basics have to be locked down every day. And that's where that accountability comes in.
That's key, man. That's key. You broke the record today.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh God.
You've set the record.
Hopefully.
324. That's crazy. I mean, it's like, bang. That's 3.5 flipping hours.
I know.
Man.
I had a text. I had a call with the manufacturer. It's like, I'll call you again later on a live podcast.
I got a text from Anthony Santangelo, one of our trainers. Anthony says, I don't know how he knows this weird stuff. Robert Wall was Arliss. He was also the pitching coach in Bull Durham.
Yeah. That was him. Robert Wall. That was the guy.
Yeah.
I did his stand-in stuff.
Yeah.
He was funny. I did a scene, and he goes, "Hey, you're getting more laughs than me. Stop that." But he was a really, really nice, really super, super nice guy. Really nice, funny.
I've enjoyed you being on, man.
Man, this was fun.
This was, I tell you what, and there's a bunch of post-production stuff that we do, and it takes a few weeks. So this is out there for quite a while. And we've had, I think, great podcasts so far. There was more information given here today about the automobile industry than probably we've done yet.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think you had posted it just this morning. Hey, you're going to be in for the 50th time, right?
Right.
But my comment was, I expected to be able to learn something, and I did. I mean, there's some really. I'm not going to go through them because it'll take more time, but really good stuff.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and all our guests do, but this has been helpful.
Right. Well, like I keep saying to people, this is a really kind of a selfish enterprise on our part, my part. It was like, I want to leave here smarter than I walked into the room.
Sure.
Right? Because I figure if I get that out of it, then the audience, and that's cool. But it's really selfish, man. Because it's like, wow, man, I really like this, and this. What he said, and I'm going to use that. It's cool. You really should do a podcast. Really, you'd be great at this.
I'll put it on the list.
You should, man. You should. It would promote your company so well. And just the way you are, you'd be awesome. Be awesome.
Well, thank you.
It does take time, though.
I know.
It takes a lot of time.
Right. Which
it takes a lot of time because without him doing what he does,
I know.
Like it costs us a crap load of money.
You're giving up a day. So in any event.
Well, thanks, man.
Well,
Very glad you're here.
Can't you just work till midnight?
I can.
Okay.
Can't you work more?
Yeah.
Can't you just work more?
As that work-life balance thing.
Yeah, well, we're just moving the lever over a little bit more.
I mean, you've only been doing it for 20 years with us. I mean,
come on.
I know. Step up.
What a wimp.
Stop complaining.
But it is actually pretty cool, though. This whole podcast, it's the growth. I was talking to somebody over the weekend in business, a guy my age, and it's all about growth. It doesn't really matter what age we are, younger people than us or people older than us. You got to constantly be evolving, and like this is a format that keeps pushing me to go beyond my comfort zones. You had mentioned reading. One of the things I wanted to really do more this year was read more books because there is a lot of information there. And you can watch video. That's the same type of learning. But as long as you're doing something that is expanding your thought process or at least pushing you to be more than you were before.
Right.
And that correlates to what you've been saying, following that process. I think that's ideal. You have to have a plan in place to be able to execute the same thing every day. Without it, you're just bouncing off walls.
And the key is
guessing.
for reading. I listened to somebody. I listen to podcasts because I drive a lot. So, and they said it, and it was one of those. When we were in school and we read to learn. A lot of times people just read for fun, which is fine.
Right.
But the key is some of these books that you're reading beyond, your fun fiction or non-fiction, whatever it is. What did you learn?
Right.
And are you approaching that like you would if you had to be tested on it, right? What are you learning? And more importantly, what are you going to do with it? Or else, I've read books and they're like, oh, great, but I don't do anything with the information. Then why did I spend any time reading it?
Exactly right.
Yeah, that was the last point I was going to make. You've talked so much about the implementation.
Yeah.
That seems to be, to me, one of the biggest takeaways I'm going to get from you.
Right.
That right there is implementing.
Right.
That
It's
I guess is the last step where we just don't finish it off.
Right. It's a challenge for us in our company.
Absolutely.
What we do, it's like, we hand them off and it's like they killed them.
Well, but then but to your point, then it's looking at something for your business model to say, is there a check-in later on?
Right.
Is there a 30-day, a 60-day, 90-day? Part of your price of me getting things is I'm going to circle back with you in 90 days or 30 days to say, how many did you retain? Why did they leave? I want to do exit interviews with the people who I hired and you blew out. What happened? And they're going to say, well, I didn't do this. And then that gives you more feedback, or your clients more feedback to say, I gave you these 10 people. Within 2 months, 9 of them were gone. And when I talked to all 9 of them, they said you didn't do any training.
Yeah. Right.
Then it becomes, now you can go in as an added value to send the trainer back to go, or partner with someone else to say, that's an Anthony problem.
Right.
Anthony, go in. Frank,
Right.
I need you to go, I got somebody for you because I'm sending them people and they're blowing them up.
Right.
No different than, hey, I'm sending clicks to the landing page and nothing's happening.
Exactly the same.
Right. So
Yeah.
then you just
Very
say,
much.
because then that becomes sticky to say, not only am I installing the people, I'm helping you implement them in, right? And that's part of your interview process. I don't know how you interview your clients. Like, well, when I give these people to you, walk me through your training process. What do you do? No, I'm not going to, I'm going to give you these people. It's not going to work. You don't have a process, right? So that might be an interview process of, it's no different than I ask sometimes, I need to see, when we do these audits, before we used to just do marketing, but I'm like, no, I want to see the CRM. Because if I tell you to increase your budget, but you're not staffed, or, hey, this is not working, why am I going to tell you to spend more money and get more opportunities if you can't even handle the ones you got?
Correct.
Like, sorry. So even for you of saying, if I want my people to stick and be successful, what process, it's almost auditing them. Like, should you, interviewing them, are they ready for your goodness? Because you're going to get people.
Right.
That's not the issue.
Never.
And they're not bad people. They're good people.
Right.
Process is, so if you keep saying, which is sort of your fun tagline is, did you kill them? Did you hire them dead or did you kill them? Why are you letting them kill them? Like, dude, I just spent all this money. Like, how am I going to fix this?
Yeah.
for you?
People think, when people talk about what we do, it's like, oh, you must love that turnover, man.
Not really.
Actually, it's horrible. It's horrifying to us, to me, to everyone in the organization. It's like we want, call us once a year, not 5 times a year.
Because in some ways we feel we're wrecking people's lives.
Right.
Well, but that's my
'cause
point
we're
is then
screwing with 50, 60 people at the one dealership. It's
well,
like,
then what's
not
going to
cool.
happen is the next time someone reaches out to you, they're going, oh, you're that guy that sent me to the bad place.
Yeah.
Right. So versus saying, hey,
Yes.
listen, we have criteria here. What's your setup? Again, being in a position to actually turn away work. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but if you're going to work with somebody that,
we do that.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I think it was Frank saying, you want to have that relationship, a partnership. So maybe the precursor is, hey, before I send you more people, you got to tighten up this. Maybe you can do it as a new added value, or you partner with somebody who can fix them. But why would I send salespeople when you don't have a training process and onboard, like you said, either onboarding or long-term? How do you help your people get better? What's your structure? What's your training? What are you doing for them? Oh, we just get them in here and we have sales. Whoa. That's why you have turnover, right? We haven't cured the problem.
Right.
We just got a symptom.
Right.
We're going to send more people in, and
right.
they're going to get blown out, and then you're
Right.
going to go, Craig doesn't get me good people. Versus,
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah, actually, we make it too easy for them. It's like they don't. We put them in a position. We've trained our dealer clients.
Yeah.
Like you can do basically anything because then all I got to do is call Ernie or somebody, and I'll have 8 more. I can do it too.
But that's my point. Is like
sucks.
why?
Yeah.
I mean, again, I get it. It is why we have companies and we have businesses because of this, but it's finding a way to help them in spite of, that allowing them, it's like I can generate more opportunities through marketing. I could probably do it at a more cost-effective price than other people are doing it.
Right.
But that still doesn't help you sell cars if you can't answer the phone.
Right.
That doesn't, so, we look at a little like everything. We're a little like Troy in that way too. We look at both sides of this.
Yeah.
We've done more over this last year of looking into, not pointing fingers to say, hey, I'm the marketer and it's your guys who aren't selling.
Right.
I'm trying to dive in and go, look, I'll do free audits going, look, you're not setting appointments.
Right.
You don't have a sales problem. You have an appointment problem. The people who show up, you sell. That's no problem. And the appointments you set show up. The problem is you're not getting to it. And here's why.
Right.
We're like, oh, I never looked at it that way.
Yeah.
Right. Here's what you got to do. Here's what
Exactly.
you got to fix. And then all of a sudden that creeps up. They're like, oh, we're selling more. Great. Now I can turn on the faucet.
Before we wrap up here, anything you want to promote? Anything you got coming up?
Yeah, the only thing that I'm promoting besides our companies is in July 24th and 25th in New Jersey in Eatontown at the Eatontown Sheridan. It's a 2-day manager training. So anyone who's leading a team who feels they need training themselves or someone on your team who's running a team and they are going to be taught how to coach people, different communication styles, how to set process, how to hold people accountable, how to train, all of that. It's 2 days. They can go to my website, glennpasch.com. There's a button on there to sign up. Tickets, we're going to keep it small. We're limiting it to 30 people. So this way we can roll up our sleeves and really work.
Good.
And
they can get more information and buy that on
glennpasch.com. Yep,
Awesome.
and they'll see a button right there
Good.
for it, or they can just reach out to me. I'm all over social media, not that hard to find. All Glenn Pasch.
Yeah.
And so that's great.
What else we got going on? And you've got a book up in your head somewhere.
Up in my head somewhere. So I'm hoping that 7 months, Frank, 7 months from now,
Right.
we'll get right working sevens.
Nice.
But yeah, that's it. And then, working on a project with Brian, excited about that, the fall conference. So, summer's here, trying to grab a little time with the kids and my wife and balance that off.
All right. You are, before I get out, I'm not going to let you out of here without signing Power Connective Marketing that you and Troy and Tracy did. So
Be more than happy to.
I'll get. I had Troy sign Turbocharge Your Life when he was in here. So, and I'll find Tracy somewhere down the road. I haven't seen Tracy in a long time, man.
I saw him. Where did I see him? I saw him at the Innovative Dealer Summit. He spoke out at the Denver
This
conference.
is the first one I missed.
And he was there. And he did a phenomenal job. And
I'm
yeah, I'll probably see him next at his WrestleCade in November. Bring the boys down.
I don't get that. I still don't. I don't get it. He's into it.
He loves it, man.
Dude, thanks so much for doing this.
Appreciate it, man.
I appreciate it so much. It was
fun.
It was excellent.
Excellent.
Really well done. Really well
Great.
done.
Thanks, brother.
All right. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks.
See ya.
Share
Thank
the
you all.
stuff.
Yep.